Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. I am your host, Brad Ellis. I am joined by Daniel Bloodworth.
Yo, yo.
Yo, yo. And my co-host, Michael Damiani.
Fire Emblem!
Fire Emblem, that's right. In case you haven't heard, Ben Moore, the Dragon of Iowa, has returned to his homeland. So I will be being the new host. I'm going to take the role. I was almost the official co-host before for how much I was on this show, so...
Right.
I am the host now, and don't worry, all that juicy game talk is still going to be here, all that good stuff. So I'm excited to talk about this list of games we got going on here. But first, how you boys doing? I haven't seen you guys like a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you missed the big
I know.
Ben party.
I know, it's unfortunate, man. I wish I could have been here, but unlucky, dude. Unlucky.
It was a good time.
Yeah. I mean, as you'll hear, last week was like Fire Emblem. I know, yeah. Every day except for Tuesday and Thursday pretty much was like Fire Emblem all day.
Jamming through that long game, yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, that game's long. Yeah, speaking of which, let's get right into it. Damiani, you've been playing Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I always forget the Warriors part.
Right.
Like when I was writing a review, I'm like, remember, it's Warriors. It's like, you want to call it Fire Emblem 3 Hopes, but it's like, no, it's Warriors. It's like it's Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. It's the Warriors series.
Phew.
Yeah.
Few. Now,
Yeah, called Few. Yeah, that's a good one.
I know you've played some Musou games in the past.
Yeah.
Like, especially the Zelda ones. Well, like, before we get into it, what's your history with Musou games?
And I was like, well, as a caveat, I didn't play the original Fire Emblem Warriors. Kind of like wrote that one off.
I forgot that game existed, yeah.
Just because I already played Hyrule Warriors before, and I'm like, like Zelda was like, I get what it's probably going to be. It's going to be like Fire Emblem characters in a Musou setting, and, you know, a lot of fan service in terms of like the character representation there. Pretty cool. But that was what I want to say, like before Omega Force, I feel like really got buddy with Nintendo and Intelligent Systems, like, hey, why don't we do some crossovers here that are a little bit more focused, that feel genuine? At least in my head canon, that's how it went down.
I think that's appropriate.
Starting with like Age of Calamity, Persona Strikers, they've obviously done other IPs before.
Yeah.
But I feel like these last few have tried to emulate the series, or at least the game they were being a part of, like more authentically. And it comes across that way.
Well, yeah, I think visually in particular, you know, like, because I feel like before they were sort of just like you're talking about, like the first Hyrule Warriors. Like, it didn't really feel like it looked like any Zelda game.
No.
It just looked like they sort of dressed up a Dynasty Warriors map.
Exactly. It's a great way to put it. And like, I think of the Age of Calamity, it's like the eye test. It passed the eye test. You until you get to the game, the combat, the Musou segments, you think you are playing a Breath of the Wild like follow-up. You think you're playing a Three Houses follow-up here. And even in Persona Strikers, like, oh, I'm just playing more Persona 5 right now. And then you get into the combat, it's like, okay, it's a different game. But they do everything. And it's more than just visuals, though.
Yes.
It's like how much effort they put into it. Yeah, so yes, it's a lot of it is the presentation, down to like the menus, the sound effects, the icons, all being straight up lifted from the game that they're
before we get into all the systems and all that stuff, I have a question. Is this a sequel to Three Houses?
So just like the ones, it's all these have been what ifs. They're all these
what
are
ifs.
all
like,
these are all not canon.
Right.
Like it's very clearly marked. If you've played all of Fire Emblem Three Houses, like any of the campaigns you play through, what happens post time skip. I mean, it's okay to say there's a time skip in the original Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's not what they did in Three Houses. So like, they're not following up. These are new stories that sort of follow the logic of what was going on in there, but like kind of take a lot of liberties, and it goes in slightly different directions, and it incorporates more characters. For example, like the DLC characters, the Ashen Wolves, are part of all three routes, and now you can technically get all of them together as well, and have them interacting with all the members of like the different houses as well, which is something you didn't really get to fully explore in the original.
Yeah, so like, I think all of us kind of know in our audience have a general idea what a Musou game is, you know, just killing hordes of enemies. But you were saying how these things are kind of these newer Musos are kind of leading into the source material more so. Why don't you tell me a little about that?
So, with the context of Three Hopes, it's basically everything about Three Houses outside of like the actual turn-based battles is almost lifted 1-to-1, and then they've added even more on there. So, bond, as you would love to say, bonds, like the character support systems in there, where you're trying to like form relationships with people to rank up from like C to B to A. There's no marriage or S rank as far as I've seen in here. They do something different. I won't spoil it, but like there's no like get married to a character, but all the other characters as well, and you have those support conversations, so they have that core there as well. Replacing Tea Time, which was like the one-on-one kind of like segments where you try to like guess 3 answers and get like the best thing, and then have like a little fun time with them. Where you could like just like move the camera around them and like make them sparkle. It can get a little weird at times, but now it's expeditions. You go on a horse ride out to one of 4 different locations, and you unlock more. Like you start with 1, and you unlock more as you progress through the game. They got like the cooking again, where you pick 2 people, and you get like. Instead of like, it gives you buffs that apply to the Muso combat system versus like the SRPG system. They got like armorer, they got like where you buy your gear, blacksmith, which lets you repair and reforge. They have like durability, but it's not your weapon breaking. It's used for something else. We could talk about when we get into the combat.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they added new stuff on top of this. Like, so in the original at Garreg Mach Monastery, you had all these locations. They had a few other side activities that didn't make it over, like fishing. But you didn't really improve and expand upon any of these facilities. They would knock over time, but you didn't add extra features to them. Yeah. And this, they do that. There's a resource management now, where in missions and or as you expand a supply vendor, they'll start harvesting like resources to you after every mission as well. You spend those on improving facilities, so like maybe prices at the market go down, new wares come in at the armorer, so you get access to better equipment, or you could train more people at the training field than just like the starting like amount. You can expand it to like almost your whole active roster at some point, like minus a few, and then it just goes from there. And like you have to pick and choose where you spend that, because it's the economy in the early goings. The first half of the game, the economy is very tight, both in gold and in like resources. So you really got to pick and choose. So you have that kind of I'll say tension. That's kind of like what you feel in a Persona 5 or 4. You can't build every relationship on your first playthrough. You're like, you got to pick. You got to. It's kind of nice to have that.
So this you got your base. Is it kind of like in Three Houses where you actually walk around in it?
Yeah. So it's literally like a different version of Garreg Mach. It's a base camp. It's like a military base camp. You have like the mess hall. You have like the war room. You have like the bunks or whatever where people can like sleep. You have the medical facility, a training field that you do go walk over to, and then like the whole marketplace area. I don't know if it's as big as Garreg Mach, but like it's decent size, and it's the same through no matter what campaign you pick. The layout's the same for all 3.
Like Garreg Mach could have used a little trimming in a way. Like I felt like there's like a lot of walking through big open space. It sells the theme, but it's like when you're trying to go around a lot,
you have fast travel as well. So I mean, you could fast travel to any individual character, any individual vendor facility, or like any general region of the base camp as well. So like they made it as easy as you want. So you don't have to run around after like the first time.
So you said the word earlier, the magic word, bonds. Fire Emblem Three Houses, that was the first Fire Emblem I actually fully played through. And I was surprised how much that was impactful, or such a large part of the game. I had no idea it was going to be that large. How much does that carry over into this? I assume everything's kind of a lighter version. Like, combat probably the focus. There's some of this sprinkled throughout, but is this whole, like, getting to know your squad mates super in depth again?
It's the same level of depth.
Same level of depth.
I mean, some characters have 3 support conversations with the main protagonist.
Yeah.
And within each other, they at least have 1. Some only have like a C rank conversation. Some only have a B rank. Some do have A. It's like contextual. Like people who are in like the starting like squad will all probably have a way to like go to at least B. But as you bring in members from other or like other sides of the war, they might only go up to like a C. But like because there's a larger volume of characters in this one, you have more interactions here. For example, like I said, the Ashen Wolves, you can see them interact with every single character.
Wow.
Maybe not in a single playthrough, but like you might have to do a second or third playthrough to get access to certain other characters. They'll have like support conversations with them, and they all are kind of relevant. Some of them retread a little bit familiar ground from Three Houses. That's to be expected, but they do their best. And they're all generally pretty interesting. It's kind of hard with that many characters to keep everyone. Like each house has like a sort of similar-ish character, but like good enough job that everyone feels pretty much unique.
Yeah. So I imagine there's maybe crossovers that were possible in this game that weren't in Three Houses. Maybe characters interacting and having bonds that you didn't expect.
Yeah, I think they do get to, because it is a post-time skip.
Yeah. I didn't know it was post-time skip. Okay.
Well, because they're all like, it's at like one of the first prologue chapters is called Three Houses. So it's like you're at the school, you do one mission, and then something happens, and then you fast forward like you do a time jump, and then now everyone's at war. And you pick which side. You basically which side you picked in the school is whose perspective from the war you're going to see.
Got it. Okay.
And yeah, they definitely go a little bit of a deeper dive, I feel like, on each of the three regions. You get like a little bit more insight, even into like smaller secondary characters who popped up in Three Houses. Like maybe certain like villainous like counts and like dukes and stuff might be showing up again.
Oh, okay.
But that also might be some of like maybe potentially some of the downfall or like some of the setbacks of it is it feels incredibly long and drawn out. Whereas like you've already done this. Here's the thing, it's not a true sequel.
Yes,
it is the same cast, it is retreading some familiar ground, and yet it's roughly the same length as playing through like Three Houses. And it's like, that's the drawback to me, is like maybe this is too much of a good thing. I could have used like maybe half of this and it would have been great.
I remember Age of Calamity feeling very long. Felt very long. And I know these games have ton of extra stuff to do, so you can probably pump in 100-something hours in this game probably pretty easy if you want to see everything.
Yeah, I mean, so you can carry over your progress, like all your stats, gear, everything unlocked.
New game.
I'm curious how long a New Game Plus takes. Then.
Yeah, you just start from the beginning again, and then you just need to choose a different house at the moment. And then from there, up to a certain point, I think the chapter 4, everything's mostly the same. And then from there on out, you get unique. I think each, double teens. It's in the teens. How many chapters are in each playthrough? And yeah, it definitely, you get a different perspective, and it goes in different directions. Even like the outcome, like obviously is going to be a little bit like different depending on which playthrough you play, you select. So it adds like, I think I played till the end of part 1 on the, it's called Azure Gleam, the Blue Lions version of it.
Yeah, that's my house.
Yeah, and Fargus. Got halfway through that, and that's with like being overpowered. So like one of the I'll get into it later, but some of the longest missions have a time like goal where you're supposed to beat it in before of like 25 to 30 minutes. I was beating those like in 10 minutes easily because like I'm so over leveled. But even with that, I'm still watching cutscenes. 10 hours, 10 hours to get halfway through. So like it's probably be half the time for a playthrough that powered up, and I imagine it'll be a little bit faster on the third playthrough if I do that.
I think that sounds appropriate.
So 45 plus 10, 55 I'm at. So probably like around like 70-ish hours, 65 to 70 hours to 100%. I mean 100%. That there's a whole achievement system. I don't want to get into that.
That's like a Dragon Quest game.
But yeah, just basically seeing the 3 routes. Yeah.
Good Lord. I was going to ask you about the Blue Lions because Dimitri's my boy.
Yeah.
Quick thoughts. How is he?
You're getting more of him, like in his background. Yes. I mean, again, some of it's been retread. They go over like he's very obsessed with the conspiracy around how his father was murdered. About the tragedy of Dusker.
Yes,
that was a big thing. What to do and stuff like what's going on.
Love to do.
He's obsessed with solving that, and that's kind of like part 1's focus because that's all as far as I got. Is like he is dealing with Edelgard and the Empire, trying to the crux is Edelgard for some reason is trying to capture Garrick Mach and wants Rhea dead, essentially. Wants to wipe out the Central Church. You take her in as a refugee and are protecting her because you have an alliance with the church, and like you don't want to abandon that obligation. And so now you two are at war. There's betrayals. Like some lords want to be loyal. They like, we see who's going to win. We're going to do that. Blah blah blah. In the midst, while he's dealing with all that, he's also really focused on figuring out the truth about his father's murder and everything that happened, and even something might happen to him.
From a gameplay perspective, I remember I felt like Age of Calamity incorporated some cool elements from Breath of the Wild, actually, like the Sheikah Slate, making bombs and stuff like that, just fun little things. What is this incorporating that feels very Fire Emblem to you gameplay-wise?
Yeah, so the maps are definitely just the starkest contrast, and it's like for good reason. Breath of the Wild's maps, the missions, were a little bit more open because they wanted
they're based off the actual game.
Yeah, but they also wanted you to do a little bit more exploration and a little bit more traversal. Where these are very much like square environments connected by rectangular corridors. So even though it's a real time game, it's still the maps still kind of feel like you can tell a grid. So now you can see which objectives you need to go. It's a little bit easier to process. I mean, older Musou games obviously looked like this too, but and this has also been in past Musou games as well, issuing commands to your other characters so that you tackle multiple objectives, because the situation would come up where early on it's not possible for you to handle everything yourself. So that's where they're leaning more into the strategy thing. It's like, there are these three strongholds that are under assault right now. You can't get to all three of them. You need to go and take them all within this time limit. Or, look, a commoner has appeared over in this corner of the map and they're under assault, but you're dealing with something over here. You can't just abandon this thing. So it's like you got to send people over to go do that. And it's basically that. It's just juggling characters, and where it leans a little bit more into Fire Emblem is enemies have weapon types, and it follows the weapon triangle system. So if the dude over there who's threatening the commoner is a lance user, sword beats axe, axe beats lance, you'd want to send one of your axe people over to go deal with them, and it's visually represented very easily. You'll see an up arrow that shows that your character will have an advantage. Down arrows are you're at a disadvantage. It even does the Fire Emblem thing of showing you the calculated outcome.
Really?
71% chance you should win this fight.
That's cool.
When it was for the landing a strike used to be what it was for. Now it's you will probably win this by this percent. So it's the stat crunching, the number crunching,
I think that's cool
still
to have
there.
still.
But as you progress further, it's not really that important. I mean, if you crank up the difficulty, imagine that you have 3 difficulties at the beginning and you unlock maddening at the end. But as far as I can tell, it just makes things more of damage sponges. It even says enemies are going to have higher HP and will do more damage, and there's greater rewards. I don't like that. I don't like when enemies take forever to kill in a Musou game.
Sure,
so
I think
it's not satisfying like a Souls boss or
I think it's okay on some boss enemies, but if there's definitely a fine line with that where you're just please die kind of thing right there.
Yeah.
Well, especially when those games, when they have those time limits and you're trying to manage multiple parts of the map, and if you're on top of that struggling with just getting through remedial enemies, I can see that being a pain.
I think one of the appeal of a Musou game is I'm not really huge on Musou games, but every once in a while they touch an IP I'm really into. Where I'm man, I just want to play as these characters, the One Piece game, the One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. I'm I know I'm going to get bored of this game, but I want to be that character kind of thing. How are the character selection is this?
So that's the thing. Characters themselves aren't what make the unique move sets. It's jobs. It's the your beginner, intermediate, advanced, master jobs, and move sets vary based on that. So if you go down the mercenary route, I believe with the sword, you become you end up as a mortal savant. I think it's called is the last thing, and there's something in between. There the special classes also appear. Your main character can become Ashura or whatever, this samurai looking dual wielding, which is pretty cool. Edelgard has Emperor as a unique advanced class, but there's Holy Knight, Dark Knight,
so it sounds like they have a lot of the jobs.
Yeah, but that's what it does. So you start with a basic axe user. You just basic 1, 2, 3. It's light or X up to 4, and then anything from 1, 2, or 3, you can follow up with a Y at the end, and it does a heavy finisher. And eventually that expands as you get down the line. You get more XXXs too, and then the Y branch changes. And then you have your warrior gauge. When it fills up, it starts with 1 bar. You can expand that down the line. And when you have a full meter, that's their special attack, and those are based again on your jobs. You'll do a unique attack, the default one for the main hero, this looks like you're doing like 1,000 sword slashes all over the place, like really fast, and everyone just lifts up. And then like the second sword job I got, they like make like this giant sphere that looks like almost like a glowing moon, like a new moon, and then like you like turn around and slash it almost like Odin style, and it goes through, and everyone just gets like knocked back. You do like this pose, which is probably the sickest thing I've seen. But I mean, everyone else has like mages have like meteors and stuff like that. It's very Fire Emblem flair. And it's very easy to understand and digest, I think, because it's not so as flashy as some of the other games. Because you're saying One Piece, you want to see those crazy moves. Like Zelda. I love seeing those crazy interpretations of the movesets. Like, especially in the OG Hyrule Warriors, like King of Red Lions doing like waves and stuff. It's like, that's like, to me, that's what this game is not doing. So if you're looking for the flashy stuff like that, the more fantastical, that's different games. This is definitely more rooted because the nature of Fire Emblem is not really flashy combat. It's like medieval warfare, and it's pretty much adhering to that as best as it can.
So, but like, let's say, can you play as like Felix in this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So how it works is you bring in active party members, you select them from the map, and you can control a certain amount. I'll show you on the left side like your party list, and you use like the D-pad to cycle through, or you can just go onto the map and select a character, and under the command list you can say take control of, and just instantly swap to them. And yeah, you play as Felix, but like his whatever job he's on,
his moveset will be.
So like if him and like Dimitri are both make them mercs, and they're both just like wielding like a sword or an axe, or they're literally gonna have the same attack moves. Now there is some variation to that. You have each weapon you equip can have special abilities, and as your job unlocks, you remember in Three Houses there was like a menu with like looked like special abilities, and they had like cool little icons by them, and some of them were just stat boosts, like extra 500 HP or like better stats against like an axe user or something like that. Those compound, and they can also they improve your character, but you also have like two specials you can lock to your weapon, and they're like, and when you go to the character menu, it's in like the bottom left. So the more you learn, and depending on your job, like you can mix and match. So like me, my main character at the Asura thing, I have a mage spell, like it looks like a tome that summons like this dark meteor thing that obliterates everything. But then the other one is called like quick step or quick slash, and it just breaks any enemies that like block or they haven't their shield that you have to break down to do like a flurry attack isn't like available yet. It like just breaks through all of that and just like shatters them so that like you can follow up if they weren't killed by. I mean, at my level, I'm just one-shotting everyone I use that, but like earlier on, it would lead into now do your XXXY combo, the one that leads into like breaking the shield a little bit more, and like you break them down faster. That's where durability comes in. So instead of weapons breaking, like in Fire Emblem, like, oh, it's only got 30 uses, each of those two abilities has a cost associated with it. So let's say each is 10. And let's say your durability is at 100. You can use the combination of those two spells any amount of times that lead up to 100 before when you hit 0, you can't use them anymore. If you don't have enough currency, you just locked out of your specials. Within the maps, there are pots that are color-coded that each gives you certain things. Like green gives you a health like potion, yellow gives you awakening meter, blue gives you yellow gives you warrior meter, blue gives you the awakening meter, which is something different. And then
your devil trigger?
Basically, it's your devil trigger. And then there's the purple ones that replenish durability. So you like, for me, I like to burn through a lot of those and then go find more because they feel like more satisfying to use, and they feel a little bit more like akin to like the Fire Emblem system, like using those against like, oh, I'm a sword user, this axe user, this is going to obliterate them in one shot if I use that, where against someone I'm weak against, if I use this, it's not really going to do that much. And I kind of appreciate that kind of reverence to the weapon triangle system to an extent, but as you get more powerful, it erodes that a bit to the point where it doesn't matter. And there's also things you can do to counter that.
Just a few quick questions left. Performance. Much better than Age of Calamity?
It's definitely a step up. Now, the caveat I realize is that Hyrule Warriors is using much larger environments. However, like, so they're still popping. They're still popping. Even when you're just walking around the base camp, like you fast travel to a different spot, the NPC you travel to might take like 2 or 3 seconds to show up. That was also in 3 houses as well. So it might just be the Fire Emblem engine there. However, like in battle, there are points where like there's like a few in a closed environment, and a few enough, I swear it was like looked like it was hitting 60 for just a few seconds.
Okay.
But like it like only when like every one of your allies and a bunch of enemies were on screen did it noticeably like drop below, like it didn't feel like it was even like close to 30 anymore, but like it felt much better overall. And loading times, oh my god, maybe because you use smaller environments, but like it's like almost instantaneous.
Good. That's nice.
Because Hyrule Warriors like had abominable load times. It was the worst. Be like waiting here for like sometimes like almost like half a minute, like 30 seconds. Like come on, watching that the Breath of the Wild loading thing too. It's like that's nice. The little divine beast walking across, or the characters walking across the screen.
Yes, I do remember that now.
Can we just move on here? Yeah.
It sounds like to me you've been enjoying yourself playing this game. You're entertained.
Yeah, it's definitely because of how authentic it feels to Fire Emblem Three Houses, how much I really like that game and want more of it.
So tell me, what are you not happy with about this game so far?
So again, it honestly boils down to a preference. And it's how much do you like the Muso gameplay? And if you love Muso gameplay, and like this is you're probably gonna enjoy this more. So this is probably gonna like shift towards like the higher end of the spectrum for you. Whereas like I don't think in the end of the day it offers enough of the strategy element. It's trying its best. It tries in unique ways to try and weave in the strategy element of the SRPG turn-based grid battles of Fire Emblem, but they don't feel as satisfying to complete. Like I feel like when I do a Fire Emblem battle, at the end of every mission, it's like an ordeal. I'm like, wow, that was really good, and like making sure I didn't lose anyone. Like they do have permadeath in here, like they have that type of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
There are people you can recruit as well. They have stuff like that, but it's not. Yeah, I get it. It's apples and oranges, but I personally am saying I prefer Fire Emblem when it's doing its grid-based, turn-based stuff
actual Fire
versus
Emblem.
to this. It's a nice gesture.
Yeah.
I mean, it made me think this is crazy. I never would say this in the review because it doesn't really have a place there. But like, my dream has always been to have the Valkyria Chronicles team make a Fire Emblem game.
Oh,
because I want that. Because that's an SRPG. I think that's the best way to do real time combat in a SRPG.
Though.
Yeah. So I mean, if they ever, when we got SMT Cross Fire Emblem, I thought maybe we get like something cool, but like. Yeah, that was not what we got in the end. So that the dream still is, but this is probably a step below that. Still like what I would pick over some other systems, and it's fine. It's just a lot of the environments. So Breath of the Wild, you mentioned environments. A lot of them are very memorable, iconic.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, this is Hyrule Field. I recognize this spot. There's the castle.
Oh yeah, Zoro's Domain. Yeah. Like the best thing I like to point out about the game, you go to like the Yiga Clan hideout, you see more of it than's even in the original game. They went above and beyond. This is just taking like towns, mountains, fields, and like they literally are like, I think, lifted from Fire Emblem Three Houses, like the themes of the battles, but visually they're not just as like pleasing and in like diverse and
they don't feel as distinct maybe.
Yeah, so it's like not as fun to go through them, and they get a little repetitive and mundane at the end. It's like, oh, okay, I'm back in this castle again.
Definitely.
Okay, and it's like doesn't have that charm and novelty, wears off way faster.
Yeah.
So it just has some of those illusions that start to erode a little bit faster than maybe, let's say, in like Age of Calamity. But like I think they're doing two different things, and that's why I think probably overall I'd give the nod to Fire Emblem over Age of Calamity. Just because like the performance and the loading was so bad in Age of Calamity, and it was like really hard to overlook that.
Blood. I don't know what your opinion on Muso games is or anything like that.
I've just never been able to get into
What's it going to take for you to get in there, though, Blood? What Nintendo IP? Are we talking like Pikmin Muso or something?
No, I mean, it would...
Chibi Robo?
I mean, if anything, it would probably be... Yeah, it would probably be Hyrule Warriors, but even that, it's just...
Blood's, it's never happening then. Yeah. It's never happening.
What about Metroid?
That'd be weird. That'd be super weird.
Like underground and stuff?
With like...
I don't know.
Exploration and all that stuff.
Attack through like hordes of enemies.
All right. I have been playing over the last few weeks, and Ben was also playing this too. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak.
Yeah, I was just checking over his review last night. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I will say it's massive.
All
this
right.
game is long. I've been playing this game for weeks, man. I felt like. And
I felt like you have been playing it for weeks.
Yeah, I have been playing it for weeks. Just so everyone knows, my history with Monster Hunter, I tried some of them a little bit in the earlier days. I tried, I think, Monster Hunter 4 on 3DS. At Game Trailers, I tried it for something, and I was like, don't really want to play this on a handheld kind of thing. I don't like playing on handhelds anyways. But once Rise came out, big console, you know, the modern consoles, I was like, okay.
Rise or World?
You mean
Sorry, World.
Okay.
I was like, all right, there's too many Monster Hunter names. I'm in. Fell in love with Monster Hunter. Rise came out on Switch, played on Switch, stinky Switch, you know. PC version came out. Unfortunately, couldn't transfer everything, so I had to go through it again.
That's still just
It's
nuts.
so stupid.
Oh.
Please fix that
rough.
in the future, Capcom. Don't let that happen.
So rough.
But then I've been playing this on PC, and Sunbreak's really good. I think I'm enjoying this more than the base game, and I did enjoy the base game a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like I only really played the demo of the base game, but it was like, super fun.
Yeah,
like I
it was a
really
lot of
liked
fun.
the way those maps are laid out and everything.
yeah, so this time around, like Iceborne, it's massive expansion. There's a whole new area you go to. There's 2 new maps this time around. One's like a jungle, like with a beach and everything going on. You got jungle and caves going down. One is like might as well just be like a From Software level, essentially. There's like a ruined castle and everything like that. Yeah. There's like all this crazy force, but some of these monsters are really sick. I don't know. I know some of them are new, but like I said, there's been a lot of Monster Hunter games, so I don't recognize a lot of them maybe.
Oh, yeah, the returning ones. Yeah.
There is this gorilla who has like armor on him, and he's got like a water punch and a fire punch. This guy just goes, he punches the ground and goes, boom, and he flies up behind you, then like punches you in the back. I'm like, dude, this is so sick. I love stuff like this.
Yeah, the way Ben was describing it is he like basically like punches the ground and then like absorbs lava on like one hand.
Yes, he has like lava and like water.
And the other one, like he like absorbs like moss or something.
Yeah, something crazy like that. But this guy is super sick. There's like some vampire kind of dragon thing. He's like the box monster, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think he's like necessarily a vampire, but he puts like a debuff on you. It kind of reminds me of a vampire. But it's been a lot of fun playing these guys around. The big twist this time around is the switch skills. So switch skills, if you played Rise, are kind of like special moves, I guess. Like I play longsword, so I don't know a lot about the other weapons, but one of them was like you kind of leap into the air and slash down, and like it burns your meter. But this time around, you're able to equip multiple different switch skills and switch them on the fly. So like before you could have like 2 equipped or something like that. So you had to really choose what kind of switch skills you want. You're like, okay, I'm going to lock into this one. I'm going to lock into this one. That's it. I can't change. This time around though, it's like, hey man, you can have like 2 or 3 more now also while you're playing. So they added some really sick new ones. Like this one, I really love this one. It's like with the longsword, you hook onto them and it kind of like pulls you into them. You do some sick slide slash. I'm like, damn, you gave me so much more cool mobility with the longsword this time around. And also when you do it though, you got to like do an action to actually switch. So you got to do it at the right time. But if you're good, or not if you're good, but you can also do a jump to get out of the way. It kind of just adds a whole new level of depth. Every Monster Hunter game I've played, I feel like they've added more and more layers of depth to the combat where it really feels good to match this kind of. It reminds me of a fighting game essentially. Like you really study these moves. You can go in there, hop in, chop some dudes up, have a good time. But if you really focus and learn, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of depth to it. But like I know
what Ben was saying with the swap, it was too. Is it like it allowed him to experiment more? You know, because again, it's like you only have so many things that you can equip at a time. And since you can really like only change those out between missions, it would be like, well, I'm just going to go with like what I'm comfortable with. Whereas like now you can throw on other skills and mess around a bit more. Yeah,
they're just kind of adding a new layer of depth all the time where I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, how much further can you kind of go with fleshing these things? It reminds me of Final Fantasy 14 where they're just like, okay, we got to rework this kind of class thing. Like it's reached its limit. We got to do something new. I'm just like, man, I don't know how much further you can go, but I am having a damn good time playing this right now. One new thing they also added is there's hunts you could do with NPCs now.
I saw that in the trailer.
Yeah, they're kind of like companion quests, I guess. So, you get a quest to... you kill a Rathlos, and you got a character you recognize from Rise to go with you. I don't think they're as good as a normal player, which I didn't expect them to be.
Yeah.
But they can do some really cool things. Like, I've been fighting monsters, and sometimes they're like, hold on a second. I need you to hold this down for a second. They go away. They come back on a monster. They're actually riding the monster, and they will fight that monster. They like take them out. I'm like, dude, this is so sick. It's so rad seeing these NPCs, actually fighting alongside you and doing some cool things that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of the appeal is just like because you've gotten to know that character. Because otherwise, to me, it would just feel like why not just be multiplayer?
Like my playtime in this game is like 90 hours or something like that. And I've seen you sitting in the hub for so many hours, just being there talking to me every now and then. But it is a nice extra step to have them on the battlefield with you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I also mentioned some people like who want to maybe just play solo, but also have like a little bit of like a aid from them.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like any game that has AI controlled people that help you out in a multiplayer game, like they have to be less competent than human players, so that people are incentivized to play with other people. Otherwise, everyone's gonna start not playing with each other. Like, no, the AI is better than you. Why would I ever play with you? So you gotta lose the bread and butter there.
Yeah, because I did a lot of these quests because I had the game early and I couldn't really play online with anyone, so I was just like, check these out, and I had a good time. It just adds a little camaraderie to the hunt. And
do they lock you in to just playing with the AI, or do you have them alongside of other players too?
I don't think you could do them with other players. I think they're single player only. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're single player only.
Do they have any kind of like independent gear level system?
So there's some missions like there's follower quests you can do, and there's like follower. I think it's called surveys. I'm not exactly sure, but there are other missions you could do to hunt other monsters with AI companions. But you can choose which companion you want to come with you. And you can choose their weapon, like out of a select number of weapons, you could pick which one you want them to use.
Okay. Can any of the NPCs wield any type of weapon, or
I don't think it's like one of them. One of them kind of like stuck to the range weapons.
Okay.
Like the bow gun, the heavy bow gun, stuff like that. One of them was like the sword and shield, the long sword, the great sword, stuff like that.
Speaking of like NPCs in the hub, like. New hub?
Yeah, there's a new hub.
How is it? How
it's
are the
very
sights and sounds?
it's so Rise had a very like Japanese inspired like hub area. This one is much more like medieval kind of thing, like castle and stuff like that. You got palicos going around like a little train around your thing. It's got all that Monster Hunter charm you love so far. But yeah, so far I'm on the last boss of this right now, and it's pretty damn long, so I think you get some pretty good value for your buck. I've been having a great time going through this. To me, I've enjoyed it more than the base game of Rise, which I did enjoy already, and I think it's an easy recommend if you're a Monster Hunter fan. No question.
As far as you could tell, did they make any like significant revisions to like gear progression? Because I mean, it's been what it was in Rise and World. I mean, is it still like building upon like Rise, or did they add any new systems?
So they added like a new rank, I believe, like
a new rank,
like a master rank kind of thing, where you do like there's so much still for me to do in this game, so much. But there's a lot of different skills that I felt like were a little different than the base game, where I'm like, I don't know exactly what to pick all the time right now. I don't have all this figured out yet.
Okay.
Like last time in the base game, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to stack affinity kind of thing like that. I'm going to stack that. But now all these newer monsters got kind of like unique effects. Like one of them is, when you get hit Damiani, like the red meter comes up, and if you don't get hit for a while, it can slowly build back up. One of them is like, if I hit this guy in their weak spot, that will fill up faster, or like give me extra health, like a lifesteal almost kind of thing. So stuff like that. I still got a lot of stuff to figure out about this game right now, but I can't wait to play more. I'm loving these hunts right now.
Nice. Yeah, and you just streamed this week too.
I did. Yeah, it was a good time. Bloodworth, this is a surprising game to me. I guess it's not so surprising, but it kind of feels out of nowhere, and I'm super curious about your thoughts on this. You've been playing F1 2022, is that what it is?
Oh, that's the surprise to you. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I check in on F1 every once in a while.
I did not know you were checking in. I know you're a racing expert at Easy Allies, but I didn't know you were checking these games out on the side.
Yeah, so back when Codemasters, I think, first got the license, basically, I was really impressed with seeing one of their first F1 games at E3 because of specifically like their weather system and stuff was like really cool, and just like the way that the rain affects look and feel, and the fact that like you'll start a race and it won't be raining, and then the rain will come in and the grip will change, and then like the drying line will come up after the rain is done, and just how well all that was handled. So and then I reviewed F1 for a couple of years. Codemasters brought me out. 1 year I was brought out to for the debut of Grid 2, and then I also visited the studio for F1. And then there's another year, which I want to say was like 2012, could be, when the Circuit of the Americas opened up in Austin. And they brought us out to that, so we were actually there at that inaugural race.
Whoa!
Got to check out the pits and everything there. But anyways, and then through the process of like reviewing the games for a couple of years, then I had gotten into actually following the sport and watching race weekends and stuff. And then over time, just as I got busier, I found less and less time to do that, because you watch a race and it'll be 3 hours long, over the weekend. It's I got time to keep up with every race. Yeah. My wife kept up with them longer than I did.
Cool.
So I've kind of been more out of it, but still every couple of years I'll check in. I think I did a check-in video for 2020. I did a little impressions video. But yeah, I think the thing with me that I like about the F1 series compared to a lot of your Forza, your Gran Turismo is even though those things are really authentic, they don't really replicate what a real race is in a lot of meaningful ways.
Okay.
So with F1, you've got to deal with rules and penalties and equipment failures and just
equipment failure.
Just things going throughout, your career. And there is kind of, you can set it up to be as casual or advanced as you want. So you can set it up to where you go through the season and they, it's every race is just 5 laps, and you just do your 5-lap race and you move on. Or you can do the full events and you have, your practice sessions and your qualifying sessions and, full length races and stuff. And so where I tend to play is a little bit in between. So I do practice sessions and qualifying sessions, but then I do the 25% of full length race.
Okay, 25%.
So, which tends to be about 15 laps. It takes about half an hour to get through the race itself, the GP itself.
Wow.
But what that allows is it allows you to really feel more of the tire strategy and pit stops and stuff like that you don't really get.
Yeah.
When you're just doing 5 laps. There's 5 laps. It's
true.
Okay, whatever, it's over. But when you're on those longer things, is then you have to worry about is okay, I've been gunning it too much. We're starting to get low on fuel. Or the tires, you'll feel the change in grip in the tires for from lap 1 to lap 3 to lap 6.
That's pretty noticeable. The tire.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
You'll definitely notice how tight you can take a turn.
Okay.
And all of that. And then there's a lot of other things going on with the career. One of the things with this though is this is the first one that I played. I think last year was under EA as well. But this is the first one I played under EA since they bought Codemasters.
Oh, man,
and it's so funny just out the gate just be hit with all of this EA nonsense.
Oh no.
Because it's okay, customize your driver and customize, your I don't know what it is. It's a hangout space, I guess. But it's you can change furniture and rugs and walls, and you can put cars in different parts. Yeah, basically. But I don't really know what the purpose of it is, except for maybe multiplayer. You can display the trophies that you get from the career in there.
That's cool. But if let's say theoretically Damiani's playing, could Damiani go to your house and just hang out in there?
I don't know about hang out. You might be able to see it.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it's hilarious to me because there's just on the front end, when you're customizing your driver, you can go through and EA's got all these things. The monetization currency is called pit points, and so you can spend pit points on Beats headphones and Puma shoes and just all these dumb things that just just pages and pages and pages of this nonsense. And then they also have a podium pass, which is kind of battle pass or whatever,
of course, yes.
And it's and I'm just to the point where I'm just skipping it every time between races because I don't care.
Oh.
I don't care that I got a hat. I don't care that I got gloves. I don't care that I got a carpet from the garage.
So like, I remember in Forza Horizon, when I played it briefly, is like, you had your avatar and you're customizing. Is it kind of like that thing?
Yeah, but it just, again, it feels like it's something that you only are ever going to see if like you're participating in multiplayer stuff. Because like you actually kind of have like a different character like when you're doing a career.
Really?
Like you have a different driver that you set up.
Okay.
Or at least, when you see them, they're always like wearing the team colors or whatever. So like all of your other stuff kind of doesn't. Maybe because I haven't gotten to any interviews yet. Because sometimes they'll have like these little press interview cutscene things that you interact with. So maybe like my casual wear will show up.
Yeah, like are you gonna be able to like wear a Dumbo hat or something like?
Not that I've seen. Not that I've seen. It's all been very serious. There's lots of EA merch.
Oh,
lots of EA.
Can we get Isaac's helmet or something maybe?
Oh, man.
Which I thought was funny is like all of these EA Sports freaking hats and T-shirts, and you don't have anything for Codemasters. Is like, show some respect.
Show some respect, Codemasters. Damn, dude.
And then, there's the podium pass. Oh, the other weird thing that they've added is supercars. Oh. And so, like, just your like normal sports cars outside of like an F1 car and F2
like a
car.
Ferrari or something.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's like they're tied mostly to the manufacturers that have teams in F1, right? So there's some Ferraris, there's some Aston Martins, there's McLaren, some AMG, and so there's kind of two different ways that supercars play into it. First is that house thing at the main menu, where
can I customize this house?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like the outside though.
It's not even like a house. It's like, I don't know how to, it's like a fancy version of a garage.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, can I make a glass house, essentially, or something like that?
You don't see like what the exterior looks like at all. You just kind of like go through different rooms and like, oh, this room's got a coffee maker and this one's got a couch and whatever.
Cool.
And then it's funny, it's like, I'm putting a car in front of the coffee maker, isn't that getting in the way? Anyways. Yeah. But so there's only like 8 or so of these supercars that you unlock. And then there's like, basically, just as you play the game, you get like supercar tickets, and then like you go to the main menu and redeem them, and then you put them in your house.
Is there like a?
But there's also a thing. This is where actually the good side of the supercars is, and it's not amazing. But again, going back to the sense of trying to replicate like what a race weekend is like, with the. Like when you're at a real F1 race, which again, this is like where that was actually valuable, is for me to go to this thing and like see how it all actually plays out, is, yes, there's the main event, but then there's all these other kind of like preliminary things, and like they'll just have like a bunch of Ferrari dealers like drive their Ferraris around the track and that kind of thing, or they'll have like classic cars going around. And so with these supercar events, they're just like really quick, like hot lap things to just sort of change it up.
Okay.
So like, before you actually get into your main race weekend and all your strategy stuff, it's like, okay, there's some hot lap, things available, and you can go out there and you can like do a checkpoint race, or you can like kind of swerve between the cones, or you try to some of them are like average speed, so it's like you try to get from one point on the track to another point on the track, and maintain a high level of speed throughout it.
Are these? Because when I played GT7, I was like, man, I love these license tests. Are these kind of like the version of that, or is the closest thing to it?
They're sort of like that. They're just not as satisfying.
Okay.
They're like really only that to me. Like they really just feel like a little bit of a change up, just to like break up the pace a little bit. But they're not that interesting to me. And and it's funny because like with the F1 cars, and it may just be a point of comparison, but I don't feel like they nail the feel of these cars as well as they nail the feel of the F1 cars. They just feel more, floaty and slidey, and like I understand that there's a degree to that. It's like, okay, like a supercar is going to be able to drift and an F1 car can't. But they don't feel as good to drive, and then just the comparison is like, even like a road model Ferrari feels slow as heck.
Sure,
compared to an F1 car.
Yeah, dude. So this is a racing game in 2022, Blood. So I have to ask, are there microtransactions?
Well, there are for the pit point stuff that I was talking about. Yeah. So and the podium pass. But I also was like, they gave us a champion edition, which I think comes with like 18,000 or whatever. But yeah, so like you can get like, actually I think I wrote down how much it costs for 50,000 pit points for $35, and $2 for like 2,000.
How much is the pass? Do you know the battle pass thing or whatever it's called?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But like I said, like I didn't want any of that stuff.
Right.
So it just sort of like once I like get my career going, like all of that stuff just went right out of my head. So
they didn't have any cars tied to that or anything, right?
No.
Okay. So it's like purely cosmetic for now?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, so then the way the career works is, you can go with either like a driver career or like a manager career. So it's like you're both like managing the team. So you're like managing both drivers in addition to driving yourself. Mm-hmm. But I stuck with the driver career. It's a little bit more simple. But even with the driver career, there's a lot of like things to do in between races. And so like one of the biggest things is that you have research and development, because that's part of F1. It's like through the season, they're continually engineering, they're continually improving the cars. And so you go to the R&D screen and you can see like, and you have your different departments. So like you have your engineering department, you have your chassis department, you have your aerodynamics department, and you go through and you can see like basically different parts to invest in, and you have like certain number of like research points that you get throughout the weekends to spend on these things, and then there's a certain amount of days that it'll take for them to complete. And even when you do one of these, you initiate one of these, it can also have a chance of failure. They're like, they get the part finished and they put it on. It's like, this is crap.
Dude.
And then you like basically, if you still want that part, you can kick it back in.
Yeah.
And it'll be guaranteed when you get it back the second time. They'll fix out whatever the problem is, but it's just going to take longer for you to equip it on your car, essentially.
Oh, I'd be so mad, blood, I think, if I was trying to get a car and they were like, it broke. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and then there are other, like, morale things tied to your engineering departments, which is interesting.
Whoa.
So that, like, the one thing I had is, like, I could either go to this charity thing to, like, improve my driver's reputation.
Yeah.
Or I could, but it would mean I'd skip out on this party we were having.
Drink with the boys?
With the aero team. It's like, I think I'm going to stick with my engineering team for right now. But then they came back and was like, well, that other new driver went and did this. So, he got all the, he got all the press from that.
Jeez.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to a rivalry yet, but that's another thing that you can pick a rival later.
Well, that's cool. It's like Pokemon. Have you played online yet?
I haven't played online. Okay. No. I don't really get into doing online on F1.
Yeah.
But then, you have kind of like this, like basically have a calendar, and the calendar for the season is the same as the real world season. They even have a thing in here that I didn't mess with, but there's an option that you can have to basically, it'll update. You can play where it's updating from real season stats. So they'll change the standings based on how the drivers did in the real races in the season right now.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Because right now I want to say that like week 10 or something. I'm totally off. I don't know how far we are into it. But anyway, so then you do practice and qualifying in your main race. And so the practice, you basically have, I wouldn't call them mini games, but you have like objectives that you can choose between. So when you do a practice sessions, you can choose between like, here's a program that will like for you to follow this line and like set a qualifying pace. Or here's a program that'll like kind of teach you how to conserve fuel better or conserve your tires better. Or like this one is just like get used to the track and like you want to hit all of these checkpoints. And they'll be like around every corner, like hit this in a row. But you also need to be fast enough. And so like it really does a good job of like not just going out there and doing whatever, but like really training you to like learn that track and learn how to handle your car better.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what's cool too is that like once you've done a couple of laps or you repeat a program on that same track, sometimes you'll even get like a little like a heat meter kind of thing. Like you'll see the path that you did before on the track, and you'll see like whether it's green or red or purple based on how you did the last time you did around.
Interesting.
So it really helps you to hone in and like figure out like, okay, where am I weak on this track? What do I need to like improve?
Well, let's say like for me, very casual in the racing sim genre. I've I just kind of delved into GT7. Is there enough there for someone like me to maybe hop in and have a good time? Or do you think it's strictly mostly for fans of F1?
I mean, I wasn't a fan of F1 before these games, so I think that there is,
Yeah.
So I'd say the one thing, to keep in mind is just like it's fast and like super precise.
Yeah.
And so and so like it's a game where I'd say like if you're starting out in particular, like don't be afraid of having the driving line on. Don't be afraid of like using the rewind because especially like if you're like me and you're doing like 12 laps and you've spent 20 minutes, and then you just like lose your grip around a corner. It's like rewind.
Yeah, just rewind.
just once in a while rewind. When it makes sense. But it's it can be terrifying to try to pass another car in this game. And that's the biggest difference to me with Gran Turismo. Like Gran Turismo, the cars are almost just sort of like they're just sort of like markers for like how well you're doing. They almost don't matter. It's like, okay, if I'm driving really well, I'm gonna pass everybody. Whereas in this, it's like you really feel like you're competing and you're getting up and you're having a just slip right past that guy, and cool. He might slip right past you on the next turn if you're not careful. There are some other strategies that are kind of unique to the sport. There's like this energy recovery system that's like a battery boost, and so like as you brake, it like charges the battery, and so then you can hit this like overtake button, and so that will make your car go faster, but like it goes down pretty quickly. So that can help you catch up a little bit. And then there's also another thing, the drag reduction system, which is DRS. And so there's specific zones on the track where that's allowed. And it opens up your rear wing. So again, it gives you more speed, but then you lose grip. Yeah. So it's really only allowed on straightaways. And even like as soon as you hit the brake, it automatically shuts so that you don't spin out as easily. But you have specific like circumstances where you can use it. So it's like there's like a detection zone and then there's an activation zone. And so in order to use it, because it's made for passing, so in order to use it, you have to be within 1 second of the car that's in front of you when you go through the detection zone. And then when you get to the activation zone, then you can open it up and try to make your pass.
Damn.
The other thing that's kind of new that to me, and this is one of the funny things, like as soon as I started and I was like reading through the review guide, they were talking about sprints, and I got on Twitter right away, and like, what the crap are sprints? This is new, but it's like something that's changed in F1, and there's like a lot of things like engineering and the physics and stuff that had to change this year too.
Right.
But sprints, they're only on like 3 of the races in the season, and the season is like 22 races. And so like I said, there's practice and there's qualifying and then there's race. But these events that have sprints, the first one is like race number 4. They kind of like, they go in between the race and the qualifying. So it's weird. So it's like you do practice and then you do qualifying, and usually the qualifying is what sets the grid order for the race. But when there's a sprint, the qualifying sets the grid order for the sprint, and then the sprint is like a shorter race. It's like a 5-lap race. I think it's 1,000 kilometers in the real races.
Yeah.
And then the order that people complete the sprint, that determines the main race.
Interesting.
It's weird. It feels kind of useless, but I don't know. It's interesting. I think there's like some controversy around it, like just within the F1 community as well.
Okay.
It's like, why are we doing this? Because it's like drivers don't want to go all out and then like damage their car.
Yeah.
And then like I was saying, damage is another thing. Like on that last race that I did, my gearbox started screwing up.
Uh-oh.
And it's like, and that can be, again, is like things that are terrifying, is like having your engineer come in is like, yeah, I'm having problems with the gearbox, try to take it easy and like don't shift as much. And like, I don't know how to shift less. There's a lot of things I can manage, but I don't know how you want me to shift less.
Right. That's some hardcore stuff.
And I was getting like around and like, and I would just hear it slipping. It was like you go around, it's like, and like, okay, catch. Okay, here we go. But even then, it's like, okay, I made it through this race, but you only have a certain number of gearboxes that you can use through the whole season.
Right.
And so then I'm looking at the durability between races, and I'm like, okay, I'm a little early to switch out. Like, I'm going to increase my durability with my R&D department over time. And it's like, do I want to risk like hanging onto this gear because it should have enough for me to get through another race or two, but do I want to switch it now because it's screwing on me? So just like a lot of these extra little decisions and stuff to make.
Yeah. It sounds dense.
Yes.
And complicated.
I mean, that's one of the reasons that like I don't just review them every year, because it's like it's
a process.
Once I get through like one race weekend, it's probably been like 2.5, 3 hours. You know? But by the time I've done the practice and the qualifying and the full race,
it's your whole weekend dedicated to that whole thing. Yeah, it's crazy. That's really cool if you're super into that. I love that, but like I don't know if I would do that. That's super sick if you're into it. Cool. Sounds pretty rad, blood. So I have a question for you two. We are still kind of working out segments, I guess, what we want to replace. We're just we're going to see how things go. But if you have suggestions, you could let us know in the comments below. We will pay attention to those and see what you think. But I just I got some emails from two people, and it just kind of made me think about a question for both of you. This comes in from James. Where do you see the future of game development going in regards to dev time? Next-gen games are taking longer and longer than highly anticipated, said, what is cracking, allies? Is it just me, or why is Kojima-san announcing a no title, just an idea game, better than a CG trailer or even just a logo? It's like if Miyamoto or whoever said he's working on a game, it's just like, okay, duh, man. And he said, shout out to all the hardworking indie
But if Miyamoto said he was working on a game for the PC...
that would be something.
Yeah.
I think that would be an announcement.
That would be an announcement.
Hey, Blood, do you see the leak? Mario Kart's coming to PC.
Is there a leak? Or?
Mario Kart's coming to PC.
That's hilarious.
Mario Kart Tour.
Yeah.
It's like the one game finally been dreaming about this, and it's the mobile game. It's
everybody.
Like, yeah,
but
so
no,
close.
you're right. It's like there has to be like some kind of like qualifying thing behind an announcement to like make it a big deal. Otherwise, it's like a no-brainer. Like, yes, you would assume someone who's still actively working at a company is developing something, even if it might not see the light of day. It's like, sure.
I guess my question for both of you kind of is, are games getting announced too soon or too quickly, do you think? Like, we get a kind of a wide range, I guess, especially from Capcom. I feel like we're getting a lot more, or in some cases, here's this game finally revealed. Here's the date for it, actually. But then you get things like Dragon's Dogma 2 where they're like, here's a t-shirt revealing the game.
Well, yeah, something like that, it feels like maybe that's a little too early. But I get the reason why. I do feel like those types of announcements are fewer and far between. I think most studios now have a better handle and understanding of like HD development now, that they understand.
That's something we heard a lot about in the PS3.
Yeah, but I think they know. I think they know it now a little bit better, where they know their timetables. I think more often than not, when something is not that 2 years or less, like from announcement to release, that we kind of expect, or even shorter than that, I think something just goes wrong in development that was unexpected.
Yes.
They didn't anticipate that, and it's like, crud, we're gonna need another year, another two, so it becomes a 2 year cycle, becomes like a 4 year cycle. And fans are like, why'd you announce that so soon? It's like, internally they're probably like, because we don't get to see behind that veil as often. It's just like, no, we were planning internally to have this out in 2 years, but yikes, we ran into this issue, and now, whoops.
Yeah, like obviously COVID has been like a huge issue in the game industry and everything. But I think about games like Bayonetta 3.
Oh yeah.
I think of things like Elder Scrolls 6.
No, yeah, and I think Elder Scrolls 6 is a good example of like what I was thinking is a problem, because it's like
he said they're doing Fallout 5 after Elder Scrolls.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. It's like that's why that trailer was so useless, is because it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna make that game.
Yeah.
Whereas like Dragon's Dogma 2 and Resident Evil 2 remake, like these are moments for them to, like they confirmed Resident Evil 2 remake. It felt like a second they came out of that boardroom meeting.
Yes.
Like,
they were like, we do it right now.
Yeah. And it's like, that's the excitement, is that like, yeah, this thing that may have been more of a long shot, we're actually, we're in, we're focused, we're going to do it. Whereas with like Elder Scrolls 6, it's like, yeah, it's gonna happen. I don't need to see anything about it until you actually have something that's ready to show.
Yeah, when did they show that? Like 2018 or 2019, something like that?
Right.
It's just like, they're like, here's the landscape kind of thing, logo, boom.
The skate thing is super interesting.
The skate thing is interesting, Blood, because I feel like I wonder if they were just like, hey, we're making it, stop asking us about it kind of thing. Because everyone's like, where's skate?
Right. I think Dead Space was sort of in that same space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a whole multitude of reasons. These are obviously good ones for why developers will say something probably in advance of when they wanted to. Another one, I think something like even like Elder Scrolls 6, it seems obvious that was going to happen. It's just like companies need to get people excited for the future of their lineup, especially when they're now partnered with certain console manufacturers and have obligations. I think it's just, again, it's back to the marketing cycle. They're like, hey, who are our partners? Do you have Elder Scrolls 6 is in development, but it's years out. We wouldn't announce it on our own right now. But now we need to get people excited about Xbox and Game Pass and stuff, and we need it on boards. It has name and brand recognition on there. I think one of the most powerful ones they could do is you can announce 5 years in advance, Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming exclusively to some platform. that platform will be probably the best-selling platform in those 5 years because people are waiting for that game to come out on it. So, partially it's due to that, and then even internally beyond just obligations to other partners, probably from their own metrics, they're beholden to shareholders, some of these companies. They got to announce stuff publicly so that their shareholders say, oh, we are working on stuff. Here you go. It's in the works. This is what you've been asking for. This is what you're expecting. Keeps them happy, keeps them in line, and gets them off their back for a little while.
I do think some early announcements can sell hardware. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember hearing people who are like, oh, I bought a PS3 to play Final Fantasy 13 Versus, and it's like, ouch. Yep. Sorry about that. Or The Last Guardian. Oh, sorry about that.
Metal Gear Solid 4. People bought PS3 for
Michael Huber bought that.
Heck yeah.
Blood, I know you brought this up at a time, and you're like, it seems like a lot of those announcements are also recruiting.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're recruiting kind of thing now. It's
Dead Space, I think, is one of those for sure. And then, and so that can have an interesting effect too, because, one of the things this weekend, and we learned that Mary from the Deus Ex and Guardians of the Galaxy team. Mm-hmm.
She's the writer?
She's the lead narrative director. She got picked up by BioWare to do Mass Effect.
That's a great pickup, I think.
You look at Deus Ex and Guardians of the Galaxy and Mass Effect, and it's
makes sense.
It's a perfect fit. And there's nothing that makes me more excited about that game than to know that she's gonna be working on that story and leading that charge.
Yeah, you're right, Bloodworth. That
now EA could still screw up all of her work, True. They've done with so many other people. It didn't work out so well for Amy Hennig.
Poor Amy.
But,
Poor Amy.
It's a positive sign.
Yeah. I want to know, what do you both prefer? Do you prefer a developer to hold their cards close to their chest, even if you're we don't know what the hell they're doing? Are you cool with waiting years without hearing anything, or do you want to know what's coming?
I would like to hear stuff when they have a plan behind it. Even if it's not think of
Metroid Prime 4.
So Metroid Prime 4, there probably was a plan for that.
Yes,
all the rumors that it was being
7.
developed, that Bandai Namco had studios working on it, and it was just became too troublesome, and so they handed it off to Retro. So that's a different situation, but I feel like it needs to be more than it's different than movies. When we see Marvel announce their phases and they give logos, you just see logos. I think the expectation is movies don't take as long to make as a game sometimes.
A lot of times.
They can, but when it's a well-oiled machine, you're seeing a sequel every 2 years.
Yeah. Right.
And
when they do those things, they put years on every movie. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a very concrete schedule. I don't think that's as doable though in game development, unfortunately. So while that would be my ideal situation, is that hey, we get maybe E3 every 2-3 years from a Nintendo presentation, here's our next 2 years, or Sony, here's our next 2 years of Sony, or the first half of the PlayStation 5's life cycle. Here are the projects we are working on. They can't do that reasonably. I think it would be this outlandish. So I'd rather them when they have something more tangible to show. The game, we have the core concept. We can show you off something that's running and working that illustrates the concept we're really hammering home at here. And it's probably within 2 years of release. That's probably the best time to do it, honestly.
2 years,
I think more companies are getting into that, maybe 12 to 18 month cycle, which is kind of like nice. Like here's announcement, it's coming out with like less than 2 years. Like even Rebirth. Now it's now, and it's like winter, like the beginning of 2024. It's like we're summer 2022. It's like that's 18 months away. Like that's pretty good. I like that. I would
say obviously knew
that's pretty good.
that they
Kingdom
were
Hearts 4 might be a different story.
That'd be a little longer.
We obviously knew that they were working on that as well.
Yeah, of
so I think
course.
there's a difference with that too. But yeah, it's funny how Nintendo like hits both of those extremes, right? Like Breath of the Wild, like they've been talking about forever.
Yeah.
You know, and to be fair, they do try to hold off. Like they're not going out there and talking about it all the time. But because they've shown it, then people just
well, they're coming on stage and be like, we don't have anything to show you this time. Sorry.
Right. But then on the other side of it, you have like Mario Odyssey and Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Here it is.
It's done. Pretty much. We're testing out, to make sure we don't have any bugs, and then here's the game.
Then you got weird cases like Pikmin.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, they've confirmed it in interviews, but they've never announced Pikmin, right?
Yeah, so, the Miyamoto thing.
Yeah.
Just like kind of offhand comments,
that people take that as the official announcement. When, someone just saying something in an interview sometimes, like even saying, "Oh, we got Fallout 5 coming after." It's like I wouldn't be surprised to like 2 weeks later, like obviously we're thinking about Fallout 5, but like that's not an official announcement of Fallout 5. Like they could probably be like, "Nah, we weren't really announcing it." Well, like
they're not like here's the logo of the game kind of thing like that. It's happening.
Yeah, I think this it'd be nice just once to have one of the mainline Zeldas be like announced and come out within a short time. Like that would be like a massive achievement. Just does not happen. Like I think this time probably a lot of factors.
Wasn't too bad.
Yeah, Wind Waker is probably one of the Majora's Mask was
Wind
another
Waker
one
had a weird cycle.
Wind Waker was right away, but yeah.
But yeah, I think the whole space world thing of the the more realistic clip got people excited for that kind of thing of Zelda. Even though it was just a tech demo, which they've done later on with.
Which is funny because if you go back and look at it, it's like that's kind of ugly.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. More modern terms, it seems like it's like this longer time between the console entries, the new console entries. So hopefully whatever after Breath of the Wild, they like go away for a few years and like announce like here's the new Zelda, and a year later it comes out. Will be wow, that would be fantastic. Like you're saying, these other extremes. Like I feel like virtually every other game they have done in the last 2 years has been out within 6 months of its announcement. In the worst case, like Paper Mario, the Origami King was like just announced and just like came out. Mario Strikers, same thing.
Weird.
Even Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I mean, it had been rumored forever, but then when they finally showed it off, it's like it's coming out in September. And they're like, oh, by the way, it's coming out in July. It's like they actually bumped it up. They're like, that's how
that was feel good.
Now you know, like
that's now you know Zelda.
You know for a fact they're sitting on games sometimes. It confirms they have games done.
They are sitting.
Not yet. Like they're sitting on Advance Wars, obviously for a different reason, but like they're you want tangible evidence. But like
more developers sit on games, please.
Yeah.
Don't need gigantic day one patches.
The reverse pitfall, I think, though, is like announcing something too soon is like when it doesn't come to it canceled, doesn't come to be. Because I think there is a point where you might be excited about a project, but like you should definitely wait, even if it's like a dream project. Imagine if Final Fantasy Remake was announced too soon.
Freaking Perfect Dark, man! What's going on?
Like remember the tech demo thing? Everyone took as confirmation.
The PS3 one.
What if they actually said like? They kept denying that it had anything to do with a real game. But unless they said yes back then, we waited all those years, how much different that would have been. Like, no, we got confirmation it was happening back in like 2005. Now it's like 2020. We said 15 years later. Like, there's definitely pitfalls to that. So definitely wait. I know you want to get people like excited, whether all these reasons, even just like to raise morale. Like maybe you had a bad few years and like internally like, dude, what if we bring this back? And everyone gets really excited. Oh, I can't wait to share this, everyone. Like our fans are gonna be so happy we're working on this. Like a Shenmue 3 or something. It comes out of nowhere. It's like, man, Shenmue fans have had nothing forever. There's no hope. It's like, here's Shenmue 3. It's like sometimes it's just done to like, dude, fans and people want this. Let's let them know as soon as possible, even though we haven't even started making the game.
Yeah. I guess just one last question I got for both you is, when I thought of like Microsoft's recent Summer Game Fest conference, they're like, yo, we're focusing on the next year of Xbox or whatever. There's all these games we got announced still, like Fable and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to show you any of that. Do you like that approach, or you're like, well, I wish you would still show me something that's further away?
I mean, it's funny because they said that, but Silksong didn't have a date.
It sure didn't, Blood.
And that Kojima game ain't coming out in 12 months.
But Phil Spencer did say Silksong would be out before that deadline, though.
Yeah, well, I don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't believe him either.
I mean, it could be, but I don't believe Phil Spencer for a second. No way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just part of like the marketing
Just
hype
marketing.
cycle.
I think,
you have a handful of outliers every time, no matter what you say. It's like, sure, like here's one thing that goes beyond that.
Yeah.
Just like literally in the most recent partner showcase of Nintendo saying focusing on third-party games kind of the rest of the year. Like first 5 announcements, like 2 of them like 2023. It's like, all right, well, I mean, this is how it goes.
Yeah, it's just how it goes, I guess. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to put one box around everything and like it fits correctly. Yeah,
there's a lot of nuance going on with game releases, I guess. We got a bunch of shout-outs that we do on our podcast right now. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/easyallies and support us there. We'd greatly appreciate it. But for our shout-outs, we got Jabbawabs, Elthanas, Greg TheDarkKnight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, Nick, and Anacrothe. Damiani, why don't you give me a shout-out? The Damiani special.
Damiani special.
The Damiani special. Think hard.
Okay. We'll do it in celebration of Fire Emblem.
Oh.
Shout out. There you go.
Very good.
There you go.
Bloworth, you want to add a little to that? Very good.
Shout.
That was very good.
That's very good play. I was expecting like an engine revving shout out from Bloodlake.
I'm very pleased, Bloodworth. Thank you. Alrighty. The next game we're going to talk about is a game. It's another DLC. I'm bringing 2 DLCs to this, but I reviewed this also. And that is Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course. Now, this DLC has been a long time coming.
Oh, yeah.
I think the first game came out in 2017, so it's been like 5 years, essentially. I reviewed that game also. And it's like, I can understand why this game would take a long time to come out, because it's all this hand-drawn animation. It's very meticulous work, I feel like. But I feel like it has been a very long wait. I don't know if they're involved in the Netflix cartoon at all. I'm not sure. I'm sure they oversaw it, kind of. But
not sure. I mean, they did put out a statement saying, like, listen, like, we don't care about, like, delay.
Yeah,
like,
I think that's sick.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like, no, we're taking our time and we're paying our people and, like, letting them take. We don't want burnout. We don't want crunch.
Well, yeah, well, and they said specifically, it's like, hey, there's very few people available that can do this kind of work.
Exactly.
So we're going to take care of them.
Absolutely good answer for that.
Yeah. And I think they made the right move, because I think this DLC is very good. Very good.
Nice.
So if you played Cuphead, and if you haven't, the game is divided up into like areas, locations, essentially. You know, you got, they're called aisles. So you got aisle 1, aisle 2, aisle 3. This is aisle 4 now. And this aisle is, I think, probably the biggest aisle.
Okay,
maybe
cool.
Just a little bit, or maybe just like a boss or 2 over. But this DLC, super easy to get to. You can get to this DLC. Like so I reviewed this on PC and I didn't have a save. And it took like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get to this DLC. So if you're a brand new player, you can hop right into there. If you want to, might not recommend it because it's a little harder, I would say. But man.
Or it could be because it's been so long, like you just have the game on a different system like you did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where it's just like, but man, these Cuphead, obviously known for its bosses, these bosses are excellent. I think they're probably the best in the game that I could recall, and I really love Cuphead. I really love this game, and some of these bosses are really sick. Now, it sticks to the tried and true formula pretty much the whole time of, here's this island, there's not much you can really do on it. You can find like a hidden path, that's about it. Exploration doesn't really matter that much, but the bulk of it is just the classic boss fights. There is no more run and gun stages, which I kind of liked. They weren't as good as the boss fights from the base game, but I think they added some nice variety. So I'm kind of sad they're gone. But there's also one plane level, which I'm also not a biggest fan of compared to the other ones. They're okay, but they're super creative. I'll just say one of the first bosses is kind of like you're in this like bug city underground. You got this like tarantula or spider walk around at the beginning, and he like shouts on a phone. He calls up his like mafia buddies. He's like blah 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 blah. Like all these these other bugs come in. Then you got some lady singing and dancing, all these crazy beams are shooting everywhere. It's bullet hell madness that you'd expect from Cuphead. But one new thing to this DLC is there is a new thing called the King's Leap. So
yeah, and I saw like the shot in the review. It looks like there's like a claymation castle.
Yeah,
or something
it looks
like
very
that.
cool. It's really
that
sick.
thing.
Oh yeah, I
Nice.
can't wait for you guys to see this. I cannot wait to watch you guys play this game. Anyways, this thing is like a gauntlet almost. So in Cuphead, the original game, and most of the game, you are just shooting these bosses with like whatever power-ups you got available. You're shooting them, all that kind of stuff. Not on these guys. These guys are all themed after chess pieces, and you have to defeat them all by pairing certain things. So the first one is there's a bunch of pawns kind of up above you, and they all have a pink head. So if you've played Cuphead before, you'll know that anything pink you could parry, essentially. All these guys got pink heads. You can't shoot, so they all jump down at different times. You got to parry off all of them every time like that. Then the next one is like a knight piece. He's essentially a horse with like a set of armor on. He's got a few moves. I'm really curious to see Damiani do this one. I can feel the fury already. But you got to like parry him. It's just a cool, different way to approach boss fights that wasn't in the base game. But what's really cool is once you finish all these things, you could do a gauntlet, which is all of them in a row. Which is really fun. Really cool challenge, you know? And I think these are a pretty good length. The boss fights, they're like a minute and a half maybe for the longer ones. So if you die, it's not that big of a deal. But
On the King's Leap one specifically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not like a huge deal if you die. You're like, whatever, I just do it again.
Okay.
But it still gives you like that nice Cuphead rush that you want.
Do they unlock like as you defeat the other bosses?
So you can go to the King's Leap anytime.
Okay.
It's so
you
like
can do the
it's
whole
on
thing
the
all
map,
at once.
the fourth map area, there's like spots where a ladder will come down from the sky. You climb up the ladder, and that's the King's Leap. And it's like, here, you want to take these challenges on? First, you got to do this one, then this one, and this. You unlock them in order.
Okay.
Then you could do them all in a row, kind of thing like that.
Are there, besides that, I'm trying to remember, like the shop, the pig dude.
Yeah.
Are there new things from like that?
Yeah. There's some new weapons.
So
Like one of them is really good. One of them's really good. It like shoots out a red beam that you could just shoot straight and does some damage, but it'll splinter off and auto target any enemy around you. Ooh. So like let's say you're fighting a really hectic boss, you're like, man, I can't really aim, because one of my favorite weapons in the base game is the charge shot. You know, you got to charge it up and you unleash it, but like you got to aim kind of thing like this. But this, you won't do as much damage, but you can get consistent damage in.
That's good.
And there's a charm that you can like, first parry you get an extra health. Third parry, you get another health. Sixth parry, you get another health, kind of thing like that. So rewarding you. But also, along with the new bosses and the King's Leap, the other biggest addition is Miss Chalice, a new playable character. So she was in the base game. If you've played it, she was the kind of ghost in each of the mausoleums, and she would give you new supers. But the whole story revolves around kind of bringing her back to life, kind of thing. Don't need to get into it, but that's the whole premise of the new DLC. She has a few new abilities this time around. I would say she's not easy mode necessarily, but she can kind of maybe give you a few extra abilities, I guess, to help you out, kind of thing like
perks.
that.
I mean, yeah, the cookie that's in the story.
Yes, so you have
goes
charms.
in the charm slot.
Yes, you cannot equip a normal charm.
So it's basically like a souped up charm to play
Yes,
as
it is
her.
a souped up charm, and she has an extra health right off the bat. She has a very powerful roll she can do that gives you iframes.
Okay.
So like let's say you're struggling against a boss that like goes across the floor really quick or something like that with the other cut boys, and you're like, man, I just need a little help. You can use her to kind of roll under that. Stuff like that. She also has, in the playing level, she has like a triple shot spread gun, almost like Super C instead of a straight line. But she just has like a few different little tweaks here and there to help you get through it. She is, I think, a little better than the Cut Brothers, but she's not so much better where I feel like they're useless almost. The big thing I'll say why I would choose between the other characters is her parry is different. So everyone has a dash forward with like triangle or whatever. You know, everyone has a dash. But her parry is tied to that dash, unlike Mugman and Cuphead. They have the double... They have like you jump and you push X again, that's their parry. This, you could just kind of dash into it. So it can be useful to hit some things easier, but sometimes it's easier if they're like right below you to be the Cuphead and Mugman. It's like a little easier to hit.
Than overshooting.
Oh yeah, she also has a double jump, which can totally help you a lot.
Okay.
But she's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed playing as her. I think she's a really nice addition to the Cuphead family, I guess. She seems permanent from now on, and I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, it's like, this game, I would say, lengthwise, it's always hard for me to kind of gauge how this will be it's so different for different players. Like, to get through the main story, for like me, it was like an hour and a half, maybe, or 2 hours, maybe. But if you're kind of newer to Cuphead, you're not used to it could take a while
to get the patterns,
you gotta learn. Like, these bosses can be tough, you know, especially because once you beat it, there's expert modes for all these guys if you really want to put your skills to the test. But yeah, I think it's a good length. There's also a secret side quest. I don't really want to ruin what it's tied to. There's some. It's worth doing though, I would say. But dude, this DLC is also $7.
Yeah,
it's such an easy recommend. I'm like, well, it's like, if you're just gonna go through the story, you know, you can at least have a few hours going through. But it's like $7, man. It's like, I read that and I was like, is this an error? Almost at first when I saw that, I was like, this seems a little cheap. But like, hell yeah, I think this is great. It took a long time, but it's like, man, I think it was worth the wait. I don't know what they're gonna do next. I mean, if they do more Cuphead, hell yeah, I'm into it. But I felt good.
Yeah, I am curious what their next step will be.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll be like the same vein of like, they're super well known for this animation style now. If they'll stick to it, or to be like, let's try something different. But yeah, I'm really excited to see both of you play this game tonight.
A dark, gritty Western battle royale.
Yes, a Western, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot that Miss Chalice was the ghost in the mausoleum things. The first one. Now you say, like, yeah, that was because I watched the Netflix show and like she's in it towards the end, and it's only season 1, so there's like a cliffhanger.
Got it.
But like, she's perfectly alive in the show, but like, you get to see some of her personality in there. Yeah. So I wonder, like, she's kind of like she's like a Catwoman, Selena Kyle type character in the show. Sure. Where she's like kind of like sneaking in to steal stuff and like kind of uses Cuphead and Mugman to do the dirty work for her sometimes. But then like, they do become friends. And she wants to like stick around, but she also like, first sign of like real trouble, she just kind of like ditch them. So yeah, I didn't know if like her personality comes out a little bit more in this, or if
a little bit. You know, they don't talk in this game at all because they stick to that 1930s kind of vibe. But you get like a little bit of sense of their personalities because there's like a little bit of a story, and it looks beautiful. Obviously, the music is fantastic too. Great jam. Blood. Another game I never heard of until you listed this, and I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, is this a Frosted Flakes video game or something? That's what I thought too. Like Tony the Tiger game? But you've been playing a game called Freshly Frosted. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this was in like Wholesome or something.
Okay.
But just totally like one of these things that would have never checked out, except it was just like one of those games that's in the inbox, like in every month, like pretty much like I go through like all the games that we've gotten and like, okay, everyone have at it, free for all at this point. Nobody's picked it up yet. And then the ones that are left, I'm just like, all right, well, I'll just redeem these on group accounts, or if I'm interested, I'll redeem it on my own account. And this is one of those, or like I just like, all right, just put it on my Xbox, and I started playing it. And like, I've been playing a lot of it. But it's the donut game. It's a puzzle game revolving around donuts. And what's interesting is that like the setup of it isn't that like you own a donut factory or something. It's like there's this woman narrating, and she's kind of like, yeah, my mind is kind of like a donut factory. And so like everything that you're looking at, like, it's just like a background is just like pink clouds and stuff because you're just kind of looking. And the way that the narration is delivered, it makes me feel like I'm like in a scene from like the Gilmore Girls, and we're just like chilling in the backyard, laying there looking up at the sky, looking at the clouds. Okay. So real chill, kind of presentation, what you want for a puzzle game.
Blood,
right?
That is a funny word for you to say, real chill, because I watched the trailer of this and I was like, this looks chaotic, but organized at the same time. It was really weird.
Yeah. And so the premise of it, and what's really fun too with the donut theme is there's basically 12 boxes, 12 sets of levels, and then there's like 12 levels per box. So it's all like dozens of donuts. And so anyway, so the basic setup is that Yeah, it's like a donut factory, and so your goal is to get the donuts that come right out of the oven and get them to the delivery counter. And so you're creating conveyor belts.
Oh God!
You're creating lines of conveyor belts to get from point A to point B. And as you're going through this, then sort of like Overcooked, like there will be different like types of donuts that people want, and so there will be different toppings, and so the toppings have to be put on a certain order. So like you'll get the frosting, and then you'll get the sprinkles, and then there might be whipped cream, and there might be cherries. And so in some cases, it's just like, whatever, get the donuts to the end.
Yeah.
When you first start out. And then it's like, okay, you need to have frosted donuts, but then we also need to have donuts with sprinkles, and you need to get all those to the end. But then other times there will be like, okay, this specific counter needs this specific set of toppings, and this specific counter needs that specific set of toppings. And then you've got all of these different stations, and you're figuring out like, okay, how do I route the conveyors to hit the stations and then get to the end. And as you go through and through, like they start adding in more crazy elements. Like there's teleporters, and there's
oh my God.
The one that that really gets me sometimes is a switcher. And so it looks like a windshield wiper, right?
Oh, God.
And so every time a donut passes through, it changes tracks, essentially. And so if you say want to have a donut with only frosting, then you can, push that donut to the delivery counter, and then you push the next donut to get sprinkles, and so on and so on. And sometimes figuring out how to get those cycles and the right pathing, it could like be brain breaking, because it's like, wait, every time it goes through, it just goes to the left. I need to get the sprinkles, and then I need it to go to the right. And so, like, how do I engineer it to do that? And then there's another one that'll be it'll be like a push. And so if the donut matches the type that's on the push machine, it'll like knock it over to another track. So like you have like two parallel tracks, and it's like, okay, if it's unfrosted, it's just gonna go by. But then if it gets frosted and it comes around again, then it'll push to the next track. And so it's just really interesting, like going through and and just sort of the way that your brain will like basically see the solutions or not see the solutions, because a lot of the times, and then as you get to new boxes, that's like when they introduce the different mechanics. So a new box, it's almost sort of like a reset. It's like, okay, we're back to simple things again.
Yeah.
So learn what this thing is and move on. But yeah, so it's like you'll get this thing, like, okay, what is this? Okay, I understand this. I get how this works. And then you move on to the next thing. It's like, okay, I get it. And it's like, okay, and you'll sort of see how the routes make sense and all of that, and then you'll get to this point where it's like, what? Excuse me, you want me? This is in the wrong corner. Move these things around, and then I can make the path work. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you like poke at it and poke at it and poke at it. It's like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. One thing that's nice is there is like a fast forward button.
Oh.
So that if you aren't sure about something, like you just hit that, and like that way you're not just sitting around waiting for the donuts to move around. And then there's also a hint option in the menu.
Oh.
And with a hint option, it's interesting because it might only show you like 2 or 4 blocks of the conveyor belt, like a very small amount. But sometimes that'll be just the exact same thing that you need to like shift your brain off of the wrong thing that you kept doing over and over again to try to find that path. But some of them like have been really stumpers. Like I had one where it's like I ended up like realizing like I've sat here on the same puzzle for like 2 hours.
Oh man!
Like what am I doing wrong? And then finally I hit the hint, and it's like, Oh, and then like right after I hit the hint, it's like I had it. It's like got it.
Is there like a penalty for using a hint or anything like that? Or
No, you can even actually skip some.
Oh.
There's a skip button too. Just like I can't figure this out right now. I'm just going to move on.
Okay.
And
I remember Lords of Shadow had like some puzzles or whatever. Like, you can skip it, but you won't get XP or something, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure like how it all adds up in the end, and they just be about like whether you can complete them all or not. Obviously, there's achievements and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where like even with the hint, I was still like I was almost at my breaking point last time. I was almost ready. It's like I'm just about ready to give up on this. And then eventually I got it. But yeah, it's one of those things like you need a break once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come back with fresh eyes.
Blood. One thing that I think that's always super important for a puzzle-focused game is how they ramp up the puzzles, how they introduce them to you. Do you feel like it's these new mechanics or harder puzzles are introduced at a good pace?
Yeah, like I was saying, it's nice when you get to a new box because you get back to simpler things and just like learning how a new thing works. But it's weird because that's the thing with puzzle games sometimes, Brad, because it's like you'll get into a situation to where like one person might know exactly what to do. It's like, oh yeah, da 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 da, and you just won't see it.
Yeah,
and you're just like, nope, that didn't do it. That didn't do it. That didn't do it.
It's
and you just get to these, you'll get to these like stumper points, and then you get to the next puzzle, and like, oh,
yeah,
I've got it. Yeah, so it's weird to think about that kind of thing sometimes, but I think overall the progression is pretty good.
Yeah, Blood reminds me of I think of From Software boss fights. Everyone kind of has like this boss fight they get stuck on. I feel like, but some people cruise through it, but you might cruise through one that other people get stuck on. It's just like.
Oh, another thing that's cool about it too is that like once you get it all constructed, it all kind of has like this like trance-like rhythm to it, and so it's like once the thing starts stamping down the toppings. It just like it feels good, and the music is like I said, it's like it goes from being like this nice peaceful music to then like once you get that engine running, it's like, oh yeah, this feels great, like we got it, sweet, yeah,
cool. I think it looked delightful visually. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is very peaceful, I guess, but it does look stress-inducing to me at the same time. But I love donuts, so
yeah.
I'm kind
What
of
is funny to me is that when you get into like, because every box is like a different season, right, and they go through like several years or whatever.
Oh.
And so some of them be like themed for like jack-o'-lanterns or stars or whatever.
Oh,
cool.
blood! Wow.
Yeah, but the thing that's funny to me is always when they get into some of these different shapes, like some of them just stop looking like donuts to me. It's like, this looks like cookies.
Yeah.
These look like Christmas cookies to me right now.
I want them donuts. I want them donuts.
I did get donuts this weekend though.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
So after
Gotta get donuts. I love donuts, man. Oh. Growing up, we would always get donuts instead of birthday cakes in my family.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I hate birthday cakes. So
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of birthday cake.
Yeah.
My mom would end up like getting me ice cream cakes and things like that.
Yeah,
That's good.
I could take
That's
ice cream
good.
cake. Yeah.
The last game I want to talk about is something I've just been playing through recently because the sequel is close. Pretty close. I've been playing God of War on PC. 2018
yeah.
God of War. I finally got around to playing the PC version. I haven't played this game since 2018, I guess. I went through it once, and this is a good game. As Mike would say, Mike likes to call it the 1 true 10.
1 through 10, of course. Yeah.
And I still think this game holds up really damn well. To me, it feels like a game from 2018, obviously, but I still think what it does very well.
Yeah.
Especially this time, like, when I think of God of War, I think of the new one, I think of the story, and I think of Kratos a lot, and Atreus, and, like, how they made this character that people hated, old Kratos, angry Kratos, like, all the time, to, like, someone people actually care about more now. More than I ever thought people would for Kratos.
Definitely adding. I mean, obviously, full caveat, I didn't finish it. I only got to a certain point. But, like, was definitely a decent chunk of the game.
Yeah.
But like the nuance to Kratos's, characterization was kind of like nice.
Yeah.
And
Quite a
showed,
step
like
up.
a shift in that tone. I think it was kind of a stroke of genius adding in Atreus.
I do too. I was very worried about that at first because, like, and a lot of people were kind of like, "Are you gonna Last of Us, the God of War now?"
Exactly, because people like old Kratos, like, what, a kid? Like, why you have like this kid tagging along? Yeah. It's like, well, stakes, man. It's like he has to consider the well-being of this child, and you can't just like go all crazy and stuff and like do his old style. Like, it shows that. Just like the game is changing styles that people as they grow older have to mature. Sure do. So it kind of went with a nice theme there. And like sometimes it pays off great, like in this. Sometimes like maybe it pushes back a little bit too hard, like Metal Gear Solid 2, like having to play as Raiden, like, that goes over a little differently. But like sometimes it's just it's either genius or insanity. And like, it's a thin line that separates the two.
Yeah,
sometimes.
You're right. Yeah, it is. It's a thin line. And I do think it's interesting with Atreus, like this father figure more is like, spoilers, I guess, for God of War 1, but Kratos was a father at a point. He had like a family from before. But it's like, it's really great to see him at this point of his life. Like, I've played all of them except Ascension because I got a game-breaking bug when I played through the game and I couldn't finish it. But it has been really nice to see this chemistry between Kratos and Atreus build throughout this game. I think it's done really well. To me, this game is really good writing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, they gave... The writing for Kratos, I think, is especially hard to do and well, and I think they've done a great job with it so far. The other thing is, like, obviously God of War, the previous games had combat. It had, like, the Devil May Cry kind of combat. This time around, like, the camera angle's completely different, everything like that. You got an axe now instead of the Blades of Chaos, and, man, the combat, I've been playing on a harder difficulty, and it's a lot more fun than I remember it being. There's a lot more flexibility than I remember there being, too.
Yeah, you can swap out moves and stuff. And
it's just, like, sick. Like, I had the axe blood, and I threw it at a guy, and stuck in his head, and it froze him. And then I, like, beat up another dude with my fist at the time. I'm like, oh, dude, I just CC'd that guy. That was really sweet. Just little things like that.
Yeah, some of the fist moves are really good, too.
Yeah, I think it was a good evolution, too, because it went from being... so heavily character action where it's like fast paced, flashy, but it always struck such a harsh stark contrast with like the puzzle elements of the game, which I feel like the more methodical combat in the newer God of War kind of match the pacing a little bit better when you had those like slower moments where like, take in the sights, have some banter between him and Atreus or another character, and then like maybe like, hey, we gotta figure out how to traverse this room, and it's like it felt more, for lack of a better word, organic or natural because hey, like you'll go over in this corner and like I don't see anything, and Atreus, over here, there's something here, like calls your attention. Like it just felt better that way, whereas like God of War, even like up to like 3, felt kind of like
it's
stuck
Kratos.
In like PS2 era game design, and this finally like moved on to do something a little bit more. Yeah,
Damiani, it kind of reminded me of when I was playing it. It reminded me of Breath of the Wild when I was thinking like Link has had companion characters throughout many of the games who kind of like talk to you or I don't know, just make things a little more lively or something like that. I'm like Breath of the Wild, it's just Link, and a lot of time it's just silence or something like that, which is like there's nothing wrong with that, but I think you can get a lot out of a character who's necessarily not known for talking a lot if you have someone like that. So I wonder if they'll do that for the future.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really, indicative of how strong all that stuff is by the fact that, when you're on the boat and you have those conversations and it's like, oh, I don't want to get off the boat yet. I want to finish this.
Yes.
I want to hear the rest of this. It all feels good and satisfying.
Yeah, that's one thing I think the game does also pretty well is its exploration. Like, it's like semi-open world, I would say. There's areas that are connected, but it's not like, Elden Ring or something like that. It's just like little area. There's like a main kind of area in the middle, but everything's kind of out from that point on.
Yeah, just having more space to move around and just do wonders for it. Even when you're on the boat, like, can I go over here? And like,
there's some side quests you could do, stuff like that.
So it opened up the game a little bit more, and that like something I like to see because you don't, as you said, it's not open world. It doesn't need to ever go open world, in my opinion. There are those like incremental steps up from like linear, more old style of God of War or like linear old school RPGs to something like this where it feels like there's purpose and meaning behind the environmental designs and like that. It's not just always combat. It's that go over here and check this out. Like there's like from dangling collectibles, like tossing the axe. I forget what they were to like hit those things.
The ravens.
Yeah,
Odin's
they
ravens.
just had that to like going back to like NPC to like upgrades or stuff like that. Get more side story stuff.
Those optional boss fights too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Man, I was just thinking about how cool. Just the idea of throwing the axe and being able to call it back wherever you are is so rad and brilliant. I love that. I can't wait to see how they incorporate stuff like that more in the sequel. Because, there's some puzzles in the game where you got to, throw the axe over here, then go to a different area to have it come back to you and cut something on the way. Just stuff like that. I'm really curious to see them dive into more. But the PC version's been pretty nice. It's like playing this game at a really high frame rate has been super sick. I like that. It's cool because I know there was the PS5 patch, but I didn't really play it. But it's been nice and looking forward to finishing it and seeing what Ragnarok has in store. Are you dudes ready for some emails? Or I guess they're not emails anymore. Just so you know, all of the Frame Trap, replacing checking the email that we used to have, is going to be a Patreon post a few days before each shoot. So if you're a $5 and up patron, you can post a comment in there. I will go through that and pick things out of there. So that's how things will be handled in the future, like the rest of our shows.
Yeah.
Just to kind of streamline it all. All right. First comment. I'm just calling emails because they're just emails forever for me. This is from Jeremy Gellery. Said, hi Brad and team. With 2022 officially halfway through and the general sense of holiday releasing shipping up, I'm already feeling preemptively bored and exhausted by the prospect of Elden Ring being crowned GOTY by every outlet. My question for y'all is Elden Ring your personal GOTY so far this year? While any game can surprise us by being better than expected, like Guardians of the Galaxy, what second half of 2022 game do you think has a chance of being a critically acclaimed as so much to make GOTY debate interesting?
God of War Ragnarok right there?
Yeah. God of War Ragnarok, definitely would put up a huge fight. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dad, don't count Kratos out, man.
Yeah. So I will say, for everything I've played this year, Elden Ring to me is easily my GOTY. I don't know about you, Damiani. I think maybe as you played this a lot too.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like I could see a God of War Ragnarok coming out and being the challenger that could stand up to Elden Ring. For me, it on the radar, it's like the only thing that has a chance, but I think it's more like for someone like me and maybe not with the whole, especially within our group, is like Xenoblade 3.
Right.
Just because
if
we get to the highs of 1 that I felt when I played 1 and we even surpassed that, I would definitely fight very hard for it. I don't expect it to win within the group, but just being realistic here, maybe I'm kind of settling on Elden Ring at the moment, but I could be pleasantly surprised. I almost think if you're worried about it, hey, we'll have an internal discussion. Maybe we'll make a best game of the first half of 2022 and the best game of the rest of 2022.
I mean, we could do whatever we want.
There you go. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it'll be late. It'll be after the Keeley cutoff, but Callisto Protocol. I have high hopes for.
I heard you're very hyped about this game. That makes me excited.
Yeah, I'm just seeing that team, be put in there with a fresh start and being able to do
Dead Space.
Basically whatever they want to do with it, and then. Yeah, I'm curious how it's all going to play out. What we've seen so far looks fantastic.
Yeah. It sure does.
I guess, if anything, the main concern would be if it feeling just too samey or too linear or something along those lines. But lots of death animations, it seems. Yeah.
One thing I see a lot of people were like, they get disappointed if something they expect gets nominated or wins. Like Jeremy's saying, they're already bored at the idea of Elden Ring winning GOTY.
Yeah,
and I kind of take umbrage with that because
if it's obvious, are you going to give it to something else just to give it to something else?
Exactly. I don't want to be contrarian about it. I want to give the award to the game that I truly think is the best.
Yeah, and there have been so many years where games that come out so early get forgotten and stuff. It's more of a testament to Elden Ring that comes out that early and it's still dominating and projections to win.
Yeah,
that it's breaking kind of that mold because Game of the Year awards definitely do favor the second half of the year. So if like a God of War does come out and Callisto Protocol is great and Sunbreak 3, like some people, I mean, I think Elden Ring 3, yeah, right. Elden Ring will have a very, very still strong chance, but like, I feel like a lot of the conversation, they might even be biased against Elden Ring at that point. Like, man, it was so expected. Maybe I'll give it to God of War just to be different and stuff. Even though, like,
totally.
Yeah,
that's
like,
a real thing.
All those concerns come into play.
You brought up games kind of being forgotten. Yeah. This next question is from Josh Reed. How much do you think Horizon Forbidden West gaming discussion has been affected by its closely releasing proximity to Elden Ring? I love the game, but by the time I finished it, nobody was talking about it anymore.
Right.
The fact that EZA never had a spoiler mode for it, to me, shows that it somehow just failed to capture the tension of the gaming industry in the way the first game did, despite Forbidden West being a much better game than most, or in most ways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm partly at the disadvantage because I still haven't played the first game yet, and it's like it's not a series where I want to jump into the second game. Yeah. And then, it's the difficulty with open worlds, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, I can juggle Elden Ring and Freshly Frosted. I can juggle Elden Ring and Gran Turismo. I don't think I can juggle Elden Ring and another giant open world game at the same time.
It's hard to ask people to play two open world games back to back.
It's just so unfortunate that May, June, kind of like from late April onward for the last 2 months, kind of like opened up with like a wide open schedule. Yeah. Obviously there were still games coming out, but man, if they could have just like
a month before, month later,
just pushed it back like to the Q2, like some like April, May, especially May. If they took that May spot where like virtually nothing came out in May, might have been a whole different story. But it's just bad, like luck, timing, whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, like everyone has high expectation from software, but like Elden Ring could have just been like not as great. It's like they're not infallible from software. Like it could have just been like, oh, it's good, but like I still like Bloodborne or Sekiro better. Right. Like they can't really do open world very well.
Yeah,
they didn't have as much focus. It could have been like the problem they fell into, but they didn't.
Right.
Different story. Yeah.
I guess so. Me and Huber are the only two people here currently that have beaten Horizon, I believe.
Yeah.
And I played this pretty soon after Elden Ring. And to me, they're just completely different type of open world games. I think Horizon Forbidden West is a very good game. And I could, like, if you liked the first one, like, easily can recommend that kind of open world game to you. But I just preferred the style of Elden Ring type open world games more. More about me figuring out the pieces, I guess, and just going out and exploring and not knowing what's there. Like, Horizon is a lot on the map. There's nothing wrong with that if you like that kind of game. I just think maybe the kind of mystique of Elden Ring really captures people. And also, it's on every platform. Like, it's on everything.
True.
And Horizon's on 2 platforms right now, so a lot less people to play it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I do feel bad for Horizon, I guess, because they got... This is the second time this has kind of happened. Happened with Breath of the Wild. This is a game I could see people coming back to later and be like, oh, this game's great.
Yeah.
Like, why is no one talking about this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's not like I don't want to play the game. It looks really cool. I just have never been able to like sink my teeth in.
Yep.
And open world games, I think, are the hardest for me to do that. You know.
Yeah.
There's a ton of games that I haven't really gotten all the way into, like Ghost of Tsushima, like Assassin's Creed, lately, and it's like it's just really hard to have that level of investment because it's like, okay, am I gonna play this and then like skim through it? Just main path it. It's not really,
Yeah, not getting as zeitgeist really does hurt though. So
sure, it can help in like the audience reception. I think it's super important for sure.
Because I don't think there was any FOMO with Horizon.
It didn't seem like as much. There was FOMO with Elden Ring for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Absolutely, there was. Like, everyone was talking about that game.
Yeah,
but I think Horizon will be all right. But
because you mentioned like Ghost of Tsushima, like that absolutely had its like
it did
time, and like everyone was playing. Everyone was talking
about
wonder. It. So if that could have done it, I think Horizon could have had that.
I just wonder if it's because it's a sequel too. And maybe people are just feeling super burnt out on open world. It seems to be
that too. Yeah.
This time, maybe it'll flip around. Like, I wonder if Ghost of Tsushima 2 will be judged harsher by the audience.
Possibly. Yeah, I could see that.
Or even Ragnarok, maybe. Maybe it won't be as, I don't know. Maybe it won't feel as new that people want or something.
We should just do, like, be like masters of time and find a way to make Breath of the Wild 2 come out the same time as Elden Ring. And then we could really know the
That
answer.
would be a debate.
Yeah, who would have won the zeitgeist?
Who would have won? Good Lord.
Where the internet just crashed.
I would have crashed. My brain would have
people would have
crashed.
just crashed. Can't
I would have
handle
known. I'm like, ah! All right, this one is from Connor Rosen. This is a long one, so buckle up. My question is, have we been paying for the indulgence of E3's past? In the wake of Summer Games Fest, I heard a lot of discussion about how we can get back to the spectacular E3s of the late 2010s. But I think there's two things to pull apart. Keighley is in charge of making the curtain nice, and lifting is well done, but it's the developers and publishers who are putting things behind it to unveil. On that front, there's two elements of those incredible E3s, years that we've still catching up on. The first is the dreams element. You can only do FF7 Remake or RE7 once, and unveiling Resident Evil 8 or FF7 Rebirth will never hit as hard. The next 3D Mario game won't be seen as exciting as Odyssey because Odyssey was coming off of 3D World. Damiani is taking maybe some umbrage with that already. And so it was nice to see a return to form. While the next Mario game will be a follow-up to Odyssey, how many bombs are left to drop? The second is how many games are still in development things that have already been announced. A lot of the big-name developers are already working on things that were announced maybe too early. Coupled with the COVID factor, you think the problem is that with SGF/E3 is that publishers just went too big in 2015 through 2019 period, and we're still catching up rather than any sort of presentation of formatting issues. So I guess,
yeah, I don't think it's a presentation and formatting. It's just those games aren't being announced right now.
Yeah.
You know, like particularly with the absences that we had. You know,
yeah, like you don't have all the three big in one place kind of thing anymore. Everything's like spread out so thin, or like stretched so thin.
Like Nintendo and Sony still basically haven't shown their E3 presentation. Like they, you know, they just said, nope, see you later.
Yeah,
and that's where the big things tend to happen, is those three press conferences, right? Like you might get something cool at the end of a Ubisoft press conference, which also still won't happen until September now.
Oh yeah.
So
why? Why so late? I don't know. I don't understand.
So yeah, it's just this year, and it's like, and you know, I think that Jeff's show in particular, like there's only so much that he can do in that show,
right?
You know, because the other places, the other destinations are going to be the bigger draw no matter what, you know, and the best piece that Jeff can play is to try to get everybody to do their things at the same time.
Right.
Rather than him putting, like his show is not the main event. The main event is just like everybody being there in the same week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with everything that was said there. I do think it's like a lot of it is like on developers, publishers, like the people making these shows can't control it. But I do think there's more that can be done to incentivize companies to maybe participate a little bit more, to be a little bit more involved. And I think things are changing about game development where so I'm not a game developer. I know there's lots of game developers who've gone on record say like making that E3 demo is a terrible thing and like it interrupts things, but more and more I am seeing companies that just straight up make demos or sessions for the games anywhere.
Enix is doing that a
It's
lot.
literally part of their development cycle. It might not be ready in time for E3, which maybe the larger discussion is the timing of when these events should be happening. Should maybe Keighley can reach out to these companies and get a feel of like when's maybe the more sweet spot to do something. So one thing you can do is maybe shift when this event is happening to better align with developers, so that maybe like the fall is when they like, hey, we most of our stuff is close to being complete, or have a demo ready by fall would be way easier than the beginning of summer or even middle of summer. We could work with you on that. And that's more for like in person, which is the second part I want to get at. I think there's a lot potentially Keighley can do to address. I think part of the issue is not just the announcements and like companies aren't participating in, like Nintendo even do a proper like summer direct, and Sony didn't do a first party showcase either. that's like on them, but like even I think this past Summer Game Fest could have been more meaningful to someone like me if more of the things that are shown off were in playable form. Like Resident Evil 4 being playable there would have been like a demo would have been amazing.
I think showing The Last of Us actual gameplay would have helped a lot.
Yeah, or just having it like playable at Keighley's thing somehow because it's coming out like that. Now, there's a whole multitude of reasons. We just talked about like the whole thing about a build can be an issue, but the other thing that like one of the pitfalls of E3 was the time and cost sink that it was.
Yeah,
it cost so much money, so much resources. Maybe this is an opportunity for Keighley and his associates to maybe lessen that burden. I've like known people who've like worked in like do the booths for these companies and like what it involves, how ridiculously in advance at the planet. Whereas I know it was smaller scale, but Keighley seemed to be providing almost all the assets, like the space, maybe even the TVs.
Samsung provided the TVs. Yeah.
If he could do that on a larger scale, where it's like, hey, you're not like everyone. Like you tell me how many things you need, like how many games and how many stations you're bringing. I will have that all like in advance. We'll have that set up for you. You don't need to do these crazy design booths anymore. It's going to be standardized so that it's better for the attendees to get more hands-on with stuff. It's more structured, and the cost and time is you don't need to show up early, to like days early to set up your booth. Like you can have templates for the signage. It's like just give me your specs and like. If they want to like wait till later or something like for secrecy, it's like, well, sure, like I'll give you the specs. You just make it like yourself. If you really want to do it, just has to adhere to this. And then all they have to really do is show up the day of, just set up hook up the consoles to TVs and make sure they run well. Like there's a lot I think they could do there to streamline that process to make it better for everybody because it seemed like such a hang up and headache.
Yeah.
I know this doesn't quite answer this question, but in an indirect way, I think it does because if someone like Keighley can make it more just easier to get into. I think more companies might play ball with him, and if he could sync it to a better time of year, then maybe we could get this focused event again, and it would like get the snowball rolling.
Do you think I like this approach of maybe just having more like less flashy boosts but more stations or something like that? Do you think the public would be cool with like that a lot more? I feel like some people like the spectacle of things.
Yes, people like the spectacle, but at the end of the day, people are really going to it. Most people there just want to play the damn game. And if you ask anyone's been to like at least one E3, they'd be like, that wanted to play games, they'll complain about the lines.
Yes,
and this can reduce that as well to a certain extent. Especially for people maybe like aren't like they don't have appointments, but they still have public stations. I think this is the way to go, and it kind of piggybacks a little bit off of like the industry media area of Gamescom, where it's not as flashy back there, and they have like the kind of more standardized square-looking booth setups. Just make that universal.
I mean, I would like that more.
Or the upstairs rooms at E3 when you're in the meeting rooms. Yeah.
Oh, I don't get to do those. That's Bloodworth and Damiani joints.
You haven't been to any of those?
No, then those are usually Nintendo. I haven't been to any of those.
No, those are not.
Nintendo's
Nintendo's never done those.
This is like the third floor of the LA Convention Center.
Oh, I thought you were talking like on the floor, second story.
No, on the show floor.
Although
I've never done that.
Nintendo booth
do that.
kind of is like that too.
I've never done that.
Well, a lot of publishers had like versions of builds that were only up on like the third floor.
Yeah, I think I've
like,
done that.
smaller meeting room.
I mean,
or you've done the Sony room.
Yeah.
Just basically a bunch of back-to-back
those
TVs.
are super nice for us.
Like I feel like and even from developers back in when it was like the shit show it was complaining like this. It felt like everyone was just competing for the wrong reasons about like either sound, visuals, flashiness, like
swag.
I swear, almost every developer would probably be like, "Thank you, we don't want it to be about this." And if like the people attending are all about this too, like this sounds great,
right? Yeah, E3 definitely became a theme park.
It sure did, yeah. The Fortnite stuff was crazy there.
Even early on, like even my first years,
there,
like freaking Charles Martinet puppeteering a Wario thing, getting the crowd to chant "Xbox sucks, Xbox sucks."
Oh my god. I get it. Some of the spectacle was nice to see at times, like some of the cool booths and everything. But I mean, I think there's a time and a place for that. This is a industry trade show that should go back to being first and foremost, where it is to showcase your new products and get people to play them and talk about them, and begin that cycle. Whereas like you got something more like a traditional like consumer convention, like a San Diego Comic-Con, like that, where like that should absolutely have exuberant, like extravagant booths where like you're trying to sell products there. You literally, like, even the game companies are selling their games there. It's like, this is a sales thing here. Right. You're not doing that at E3.
Well, but I think that's what old E3 was, and I mean, still to some degree is, but it's like they weren't selling direct to consumers.
Yes.
But they were selling to Best Buy. They were selling to GameStop. And so
But they have something for that now, which is funny. They evolved because now they have like the GameStop trade show or the thing in Las Vegas now where they go there and show all the distributors, here's our upcoming year of products and how much do you want to buy from us?
Yeah. So I think that's the thing is like if the focus is just on the media, or a mix of media and public. Like all three of these different things have different different approaches. But it's like, if your idea is just to get the media to cover your game, then making it super loud and crazy isn't the way to go about it.
Yeah, I think it also solves the issue. Like even when like people like still point to like about control and publisher, like the individual publisher events, but usually publishers have to cover like travel cost, hotel. If everyone was already going to E3, like that's now off their books, they don't have to pay for those expenses anymore. And on top of all these other savings they could have, it would incentivize them. Like we're gonna have so many people here, and it's gonna be like, and we have all this space now. I imagine it would be more amicable to them to do something like this and come back and do something like this again. Like I'm talking about like EA maybe coming back, like getting like Microsoft to come back inside, like to like their own
to actually
thing.
be inside it.
It would be really nice to have everyone under one roof, so to speak, again.
Yeah, I wonder if they could do it even somewhere like smaller, like the Anaheim Convention Center or something.
Yeah, I don't know if Anaheim Convention Center is technically smaller than LA Convention Center, but like
two of them. Are there?
What Anaheim Convention Center has like multiple floors.
Like I know, but like LA has like multiple floors that.
I think LA is technically the biggest one. ACC is not that much smaller.
Okay.
Neither is San Diego Like San Diego Convention Center is not that much smaller either.
Okay.
So I don't know. When you said smaller, I thought you were talking about like about to say a hotel or something.
No. That's too small.
I mean, sure, if like they want a different venue, like I don't think it would hurt to maybe potentially change locations.
Even E3, from what I remember in the final years of E3, is like there would be like huge sections of those halls that just there's nothing really. There's nothing.
I mean, sure. Like I think some of the like ideal place for maybe developers and publishers would possibly be Vegas because like they have all this fun stuff to go do after, and like there's like endless amounts of convention center space there. So like it would be really easy to book one location and have the space they need. But CS has been doing it. I don't know how well.
Selfishly hope Anaheim because it's close to us.
Oh yeah, PSX
was so sweet.
I'm not closer to it, Brad, but freaking my roommate Simmons and I forever wanted like E3 to go to Anaheim Convention.
Oh really?
We just think it's a better setup because of all the hotels right there. More hotels right there.
Right there.
More things within easy walking distance with like more pedestrian friendly. That's hilarious saying Anaheim is more pedestrian friendly than like a city, but it technically is in that specific area because of Disney making it that way because it's all Disney.
Yeah, that mouse watches those streets.
And it has opened up to so many food places and stuff. It's just like everything is right there. It just creates so much space. It's like it's a good place to do it, I would think.
Yeah, I am curious.
San Diego.
I am curious what locations they might go with, but
hopefully easy for us.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though. Is like I feel like they may still stick with something that's a little bit on the smaller scale than a convention center.
Yeah,
because anytime any convention center you get into, like you get into all of these union guidelines and everything, and
Yeah, I guess if anyone's gonna do it, Keely's the guy though.
Yeah, I mean, without giving away, like those like the sort of location where it gets like, it's not hard to imagine picking a bigger kind of like a more like warehouse type environment that's even bigger next time that can house. I mean, heck, the 2007 E3 at the Barker Hangar or whatever, like get like a big like giant space like that. They're definitely like especially nowadays, they're big open like warehouses that are just like sitting there, no businesses anymore.
I want to bring up this point that Connor wrote in this about not having that dreams element because there's no more Final Fantasy VII remake whispers kind of going on, but in like Mario Odyssey follow-up not being as exciting, I still think there's plenty of excitement and there's still plenty of games to come that
there's no reason to write off of Mario.
Just because the usual suspects are starting to be like checked off the box. It's like, I mean, I think at this point the only thing left is Half-Life 3 is like the last like of those types of dreams. But some of the best types of dreams are the ones you even know, and Silent Hill, are the ones you'd even know you wanted.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
I don't think anyone actually wanted like Odyssey. Like people like
we want 64.
People want 64, but like people just want another great 3D Mario game, and like here comes Odyssey. But Bowser's Fury, do you even know you wanted that?
No.
And like
Right.
Saying that's like a full blown game, like a full like 10 to 15 hour 3D Mario game that's more like Bowser's Fury than Odyssey or Galaxy is like. I can't wait to see that. I hope that is what they're like. That's a dream of mine. I mean, big things like just even just another 3D Mario game will always be a big deal. I feel like, and like you want dreams. There's still things that haven't happened that like they may never happen, but that's why we dream. I mean, freaking, I'd love to see a proper full ground up remake of Ocarina of Time. I mean, like right next to like Final Fantasy VII game, this treatment's like, yo, I'm glad you made that 3DS version that's never gonna see the light of day on any other platform.
Why would they put it on Switch, Damiani?
Yeah, it's
damn
like,
it.
I mean, you can start by porting that, but heck, I would like, man, that game like with like so many things, like the cut content from it and all these like things on it. There's so far they could go with that. You're
sanity. Crazy. But that's a cool dream,
and people would love it and eat it up.
I would eat that up all day. No question.
Yeah, I mean, Metroid Prime 4 could be another dream. Like, we know it's coming, but what is it actually? Is it just literally more of the same? Is it more ambitious? It's like, I know I'm sticking with like Nintendo stuff here, but like, freaking like, I Dream of Revengeance 2. It's like, I don't care. Like, it just show me that logo and we're going,
what if
man.
It's like Kojima's like, yo, new Metal Gear.
Just a new Metal Gear.
Starring Sonny as the main character. Sonny is the operative now.
Yeah, I mean, 16 was one for just seeing it in action was a big one.
Yeah,
like, that happened. I mean, there's still things like a lot of people's dream right now is the next Nier game. What is it gonna be like and stuff?
Yeah,
like,
new Nier game.
There's always someone who has a dream that you might not share with them, but so like I don't think there's any shortage of surprises.
Like for us personally, it's like what made that 2015 for us so special is like we love Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
And Hubert loves Shenmue.
Like that,
the man cried, you know? It's like you can only get that so many times, but there's still so many games Hubert would lose his mind for.
Exactly. And then like
Shenmue 4 could get announced and Hubert would cry again.
Yeah, and The Last Guardian had like, like troubled development history. So I mean, there are games that can also come out that have troubled history that like finally go dark for forever and then come back. It's like, whoa!
Yeah, it's
like Metroid Dread.
Yeah,
like,
Metroid Dread.
Wasn't quite the same impact as The Last Guardian, but like still Nintendo fans like, what? It's real? It's happening?
Like you brought up Last Guardian's like, you bet your ass I'm excited for his new game.
Oh yeah, wait, his new thing. Yeah,
we know he's working.
Yeah,
exactly.
Epic, yeah,
exactly.
We're gonna be pumped for that. I know us three specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think E3, like, the E3 magic can still for sure happen. It's just like, it's been weird. COVID has been a huge blunder to all of this kind of thing.
And also, like, E3 just itself as an event faltering.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to see what they're going to do
next year. What the crap is going to happen next year?
They're like, we're going to in-person. It's like,
battling conventions.
Yeah, Keeley versus E3. I guess we'll see. All right, boys. I think that's it for Frame Trap. That was a good time. I enjoyed that very much. I hope you all enjoyed that. This is the new Frame Trap. It'll be me and Damiani on every episode, and we'll have a new rotating guest every time. Bloodworth, thanks for sharing about that Frosted game, like crazy donut puzzle action, dude. Nuts. Had a great time. But yeah, I think we're going to get out of here. So thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you all next time.